Oh, I know.
All right, we heard a yay from some of our board members. All right, everybody, I'd like to bring this meeting to order, please, for the good break and welcome the new carpeting as we begin to do some renovation in this room. But it does really nice. Is Wednesday, August 7th. It is 9:11. And I'd like to bring the executive committee to order. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allen. Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Who's here? Host here.
Ford,
Board present.
Gums,
Comes remote.
Caius, Kenyon, Lewis, Linder,
Linder on remote.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
Strathman,
Strathman present.
Sturgis,
Duffy here.
I'm here as well.
you have an in-person forum?
Very much. May I have your permission to allow Ms. Gums and Mr. Linder to attend remotely? Consent.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you. And Mr. Sturgis will be joining us approximately about 9:30 remotely. So we'll briefly stop the meeting at that point to let him in. And Miss Allen, when she comes, I'm sure she'll be here. So with that, let's see, who wants to do the, Ms. Strath? Pledge, please, certainly. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, Rotary. May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from July 3rd, 20.
Madam Chair, this is Caius. I would ask for unanimous consent for the approval of the minutes from July 3rd, 2024.
Okay.
Just second.
Don't need one.
Unanimous
Any objections?
consent. All right, very good. Yeah, I hear there's no objection, so minutes are passed. We now move on to public comment. As we are aware, as a matter of protocol, we ask that our speakers refrain from statements or remarks of conduct that might become disruptive to the conduct of the county board or which may cause a disturbance. There are three speakers who will be speaking on agenda today that I am aware of. Each of those speakers will be given 5 minutes. Please introduce your name and your topic before you begin, and then you'll have your 5 minutes. So the very first speaker is Lona Steele. Lona, Ms. Steele, could you bring the mic a little closer? Hold on, we've got technology coming to help out.
Okay, I wasn't on. Okay, now I'm on. I live in Geneva. And I'm here, first of all, to thank the county board for all the great work you've done all the time I've lived here. And Madam Chair Perogue for leading the county board in what I think has been fiscally responsible ways to address lots and lots of concerns and issues in our county. Today, I'm speaking particularly about the public health, the authorization for naloxone to be in the Aurora Public Library and at Copley Memorial Hospital. I have a friend, a longtime friend since high school, who was State Department physician for years, and he retired, went to a state that has a terrible opioid situation. And so he has not been in retirement. He has been chasing concerns about opioids And naloxone was on his lips, his mind for the last several years. So he would be very happy to see this kind of resolution come in. I was also taken by the fact that we're also addressing mental health. When in one of the earlier resolutions, the Credible Mind for Behavioral Health 360 program. So I really want to commend the Health Department for all the work that you've done for all the residents. I'm struck by the fact that Kane County has roughly 514,000 people. The state of Wyoming has 5,000, excuse me, let's do it again. 500,000. 581,000 people. Let me get it right. In the whole state of Wyoming. So you, the county board, are doing the work that the whole state of Wyoming is doing. And Madam Chair, you're doing the work that the governor of Wyoming is doing. So I want you to know, and just as an aside, Wyoming has 2 senators. And we have 2 senators that we share with 12 million other people. So I just want you to understand how valuable you are to us, because you're kind of the whole state of Wyoming in terms of what you have to do as your duties for the residents that you are serving. So those are my basic comments. I've been impressed with so much of the work you've done. I don't have a reason to use the Long Meadow former tollway, but I do know that for the people in the north part of the county, that's been a real plus to have that tollway go away. So thank you so much for all the work that you do for us. And thank you especially today in my comments about the mental health and the physical health with naloxone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to reflect, we're very similar to Wyoming. We're just as beautiful here in Kane County. Maybe where our mountains are not quite so high, but we do have some nice hills. And we're a big supporter of renewable energy, as is Wyoming. All right. And Wyoming is one of my favorite states to visit when for a vacation. That's very funny. And yes, that's right. The first state to give women the vote. Absolutely. Adam Powley.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding the floor today.
Mr. Powley, just a little bit closer.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding the floor today to me. I rise today in support of the Pride Resolution and the naloxone, if I have time. The Pride Resolution, even though it's in August, it is a celebration of the rights and freedoms that exist in America that do not exist in many places throughout the world. As I mentioned last time, we have rainbows and things, but the thing that unites us all, the thing that we all celebrate, is this flag. And when you are voting on that, you're just as much voting to support our flag and support our rights and freedoms. That's what this is. On the naloxone, this has been an issue that has been very near and dear to my heart. My family, we lost my sister to an overdose. And it is a big issue, not just in the state of Illinois and in our county, but every 5 minutes in this country. By the time my 5 minutes has concluded, somebody in the United States will have died from an overdose, according to the CDC. Every 5 minutes, that's how crucial this is to save people. The naloxone is a life-saving drug. I've been working with our local health department, and I want to say thank you to them, Director Isaacson Michelle Myers and her team, who have a long track record of successful project completion. They're larger than life people, and I am humbled to be able to work with them. This is just incredibly important, very near and dear. When I got off work, I worked the overnights, and I saw the sunrise come up this morning when I was getting off of work. It was beautiful. There were so many colors. And I reflected on that. And I reflected on all of those people like my sister, and people like many others that I know who will never see that again. We, as government leaders, are responsible for the deteriorating conditions that are happening under us. We have that blood on our hands, and no washing will reverse that. Only through deliberate action, like will be taken here today, can we reverse the course. Can we heal our communities and our people? It's too late for my family to be whole again, but it's not too late for yours. Think about your children. Think about your grandchildren. Think about those people who you care about. My nephew's 15 and he's growing up without parents because of this. It's incredibly unfortunate. And we have the ability here today to allow these life-saving medical supplies to rain down like manna from heaven. I look forward to your yes vote on that and on the Pride resolution. I thank you for the time, and I yield the balance if there is any.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Michelle Bettig.
Hi, Michelle Bettag. I am not in agreement with some of the stuff, and mostly I'm talking about the finances here in Kane County. And I think we all wake up in January, we get our visa statements, and we're kind of mad at ourselves for going overboard on Christmas Day. And we get our bills. And I feel like that's what's happened here in the last 2 years that I've been coming. All year we have this crazy spending. And then this time of year comes around and we're all shocked by the visa balance. It's mind blowing. And I blame Corinne Prague for a lot of this, bringing in these giant projects that we cannot afford, the spending on analysis and on plans for climate and all these other, a climate action plan for 50 grand by an interior decorator, all the spending that goes crazy throughout the year. And now we're at a loss for words of what to do now. I just want to bring up Illinois just reported 16.9% highest tax percent in comparison to income. We're the highest in the state. I'm sorry, highest in the country. We're the top 10 US counties with highest effective property taxes in 2023. There's a lot of nice places in the country to live. I know people say, well, our quality of life is great. There's a lot of good quality of life without the spending that goes on here in Kane County. The incompetence of many board members is appalling. There's a handful that truly qualify for making changes and looking at these balance sheets and making changes. Spending is hard to cut. But when you're bringing Springfield and Washington, D.C. agendas into this county and people to open your hospitals, schools, and your wallets to, then that changes the dynamics of our county. Fine. Okay. So people want to give. That's fine. People want to spend. That's fine. But that's your number one job, is balancing the budget. And when I see spending here every single month and we have no end in sight and no resolutions to cut spending and to balance the budget, it's alarming. I don't know. I've asked all of you guys to go downtown Geneva and walk through the streets of Geneva, and many shops are closed, unfortunately. I tried to host an event in St. Charles this coming month, and the lady who owns a giant venue in St. Charles said, can you do it within the next 2 or 3 weeks? Because I'm going to put this property on the market. She's very in tune with all the shop owners and business owners in St. Charles. She goes, you are going to be seeing what is going on in Geneva happening in St. Charles because we cannot afford, due to county and state, in the city of St. Charles, we cannot afford to keep our doors open. So not only are we going to lose that revenue, you're going to put it on homeowners. I beg all of you to start, just go talk to the people that come in and are paying their taxes. The Visa balances are out of this world, the highest in our nation's history. Go talk to the taxpayers who are going to be paying their tax bills and see how happy they're going to be about a retail tax and about increasing their property tax, motor fuel tax. Look at your spending. It's outrageous. We have the highest taxes in the country, top 10 list. It's insane. I just think, talk to your taxpayers. People are crying. People are upset. They can't do it. This is just the beginning. This is not just starting. We've been saying to Vern Tepe for 2 years, hey, Vern, this is inflation. This is going to go full blown real quick here. And here we are, full blown. The stock market, that was our last, hey, it's not that bad. It's going to get worse. And when you sit there and talk to everyday citizens, they're irate. And when you talk retail tax, this is one way of doing it. I don't agree. Like, people can't afford to buy certain things. They're going to hurt the shop owners more. So I'm just asking, take a look at these expenses, do a deep dive. I mean, obviously us taxpayers do not have access to some of the stuff that you have. A lot of it's public, but when you sit there and do a deep dive on some of this stuff, that's your responsibility. That's what you signed up for. I think to myself, if I was in your spot, I would be meeting with Kathleen. I'd be meeting with Chris Lausen, whoever that can help you understand, because when I'm listening to these meetings, many of you do not understand the exact numbers that need to be cut, the income that's coming in. I mean, the reserves are spread out so it probably intentionally so that we don't understand how what reserves we have. Everything's in these puddles that aren't. Just give us the number. And here are the times that we can spend reserves. These are the times. Stop looking at, oh, we have enough money to buy a health department, but not taking into consideration, all the incomes that we're going to be paying. You just give giant raises to elected officials. The job rates, the income people are receiving, everything is being cut. Please be responsible. This cannot go on. The financial crisis is just beginning, honestly. It's not going to end. Thank you.
What's the exact words?
Mr. Anderson, you're next. And Mr. Anderson, it is my understanding that you're speaking off agenda, so you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove, Illinois. I wasn't planned to speak on this, but I was delighted that the wonderful citizen brought up Wyoming. I'm looking at current data. The lowest tax state in our country would be Wyoming at 3.9, and Illinois on the flip side of that is the highest in the nation, 16.9. He also referenced it is a big job being the CEO of a county, which I would agree. Kane County is the 5th largest in the state, so there are 4 other CEOs that are doing that type of work as well. Here's why I came to speak. It's really more about awareness and reminder. The Kane County Special Finance Meeting on July 30th, I would encourage each one of you and those behind me in the room. It's an hour and 54 minutes. It is laced with massive frustration on both sides. And I could highlight the Democrats that are really passionate and a few of the Republicans. I'm going to leave that quiet for now, but there is mass frustration. By the way, the CEO, that is the job, right? In any corporation, we have quarterly reviews. We have annual reviews. How are we doing for our shareholders, our stockholders? In this case, it's the 514,000 citizens of Kane County. We need to have a balanced budget. And by the way, Leadership 101, keep the main thing all the time. Now, why I came to this meeting is many of you are chairs of your own committees. We all have a responsibility to be fiscally responsible, each and every one of you. Dale Berman heads the Finance Committee. The frustration by some of the Democrats that wanted the information, they should have had that months ago, not waiting. Now we're going to have another special board meeting on the 12th. I'm reminded that it was 3 days before Thanksgiving last year before we finally pushed the budget through. That's not good. Now, what was staggering to me at the 1 hour and 25-minute mark, our representative out of District 22, which happens to be Vern Tepe, this is the first time we're thinking about these situations. Those are not Brian Anderson's words. Those are his words. We should be thinking about the budget every day of the week. That's the main thing, to have a balanced budget. Then at the hour 31:45-minute mark, we have the CEO, Madam Chair, going, well, I think we've been living off of credit card debt, and it's kind of like that. That is lack of fiscal responsibility. Now, I heard a lot of bantering. We need to cut. We need to get to the different departments. There's 860 pages in that finance meeting. I whipped through there. I think one of the things that any of the department heads can do, I mean, there's only two or three things that all of us can control that actually have run businesses, and it's typically your labor costs, your payroll, and your healthcare, which those costs are skyrocketing. And I have done a little research on what's going on in Kane County. But there's a lot of overtime going on in every department. And so I would encourage you as a Finance Committee board to take a good look at that. Thank you. And I hope you have a very productive meeting on the 12th as far as getting our budget balanced. Thank you.
Ed Marath?
Thank you and good morning. I value the time that you spend here, and I agreed with the first two speakers emphatically and what their points. And I guess I should note that maybe the Fox River is our answer to Old Faithful. But also that the carpeting comments on that people should notice that it's all glued down. Nothing can be swept under it here, and nothing is. I value your openness. I would like to say also that I've been thinking about the several meetings I've attended and many more on the computer, that Henry David Thoreau's comment that people often live lives of quiet desperation. And that's true enough for people worried about their bills and the taxes and mandates and so forth. But a lot of it seems to be overdone. We're kind of, some people are, I think, in a time warp, you know, when we say the bills are too, the taxes are too high, there hasn't been, did I step in the wrong county? That there haven't been a raise in the county level of taxation in 13 years. And that's very strange to have that kind of comment, I think. Anyhow, I do want to say that the planning of the future is always necessary. Always in the past, people have, when there's planning, you know what to expect, you know how to deal with it. If you have the resources, you can. But we have nationally, at least, the bad umbrella for rolling back. The president is called Project 2025. I know that's not here now, but it is serious. And those who claim there are many people connected to it, and these are the tools for enactment and what they mean to do. Their leaders said so, and we should believe them. Our hair is not on fire. The sky we like to see is not falling. The grapes are not sour. Not being vigilant about our food quality means it will deteriorate. Not being vigilant about our votes means that union rights will have compensation at the whim of those who mean not to pay fair wages. Not being vigilant means old age protections and economic and health security will collapse. Legal immigrants will be criminalized when our previous generations were welcomed. Religion will no longer be a private matter, but a public matter of intolerance. Parentage will be decided by those who think it is their right to decide who, when, and under what circumstance parentage will be mandated by the government, and the bedroom and the doctor's offices will be watched by fearsome watchers. We see it happening. It's on the ballot here. It's it's on the ballot here and elsewhere. Maybe not by the way specifics, but it's there. Government and laws are not for intruding or mandating the will of others in our lives, except for public safety, health and education. Public safety is an interfering coincidence for those who would mandate gun toting in all places, like Wyoming, in all places that is happening in some places in this country. Support of those who cast this very dark shadow is a real and present danger to people in every city and town, every school, every library district, and it should not be dismissed. Civilization, and that's not too grand a term for what we have and value, is preserved not unlike a vessel paying attention to buoys, the channel markers for enabling ships to safely leave or return to ports. Thomas Aquinas, a Dominican friar, observed about 700 years ago that if the main object of a captain is not to have his ship sink, he would never leave port. We are always in a sea of change where progress is needed. There are storms of protest that the imaginary past was better, that budgets can and should be cut, even though nobody wants to raise money to pay for what needs to be paid for.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
I think your time is up.
Okay. Well, then I'll conclude by saying just continue doing your best.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you. Brenda Engelhardt?
Can you hear me?
Very well.
Oh, loudly. Hi, I'm Brenda Engelhardt. I live in St. Charles, Illinois, and I am very glad to be here. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, honorable board members and citizens. As I said, my name is Brenda Engelhardt, and the last time I was in this chamber, this board voted for a climate action plan. I'm here to say thank you. I have a 25-year-old son at home, and I taught 11 and 12-year-olds for a lot of years. And let me tell you, what's concerning to young people is their climate. I understand taxes are an issue. And I am a citizen. I'm an everyday citizen. And I'm not shocked by my tax bill because I understand it. I've looked at it and I understand where the costs are coming from, where the fees are coming from. As I understand it, this board, you have 4%. Is that 4% of the total tax bill? That's all we're working with is 4%. Thank you, board, for doing the work that you have been asked to do by those citizens who care about the environment. That is my point today. The last time I was here, this board was accosted and disrupted with disinformation, with people whose goals were not to solve, but to point out error and to try and get a political leg up. Thank you for having some belief in the progress that we can have in our environment. There is no credible science that denies climate change or its trajectory. Let me repeat, there is no credible science. So this board acted. You passed the Climate Action Plan, which moves to reduce greenhouse emissions in areas like transportation, talking about local food production, how we get food to ourselves with less gas. There is also education involved about safety and health. In addition, this board has passed and okayed solar fields, which will have a benefit of $250,000 in 10 years. And there's a green building policy that you've put in place. I'm not saying anything you don't know, but often the big things that you do, because I'm going around and talking to people, they don't know. It needs to be said. So board, thank you for standing in the face of people that come in to disrupt and talk in fear. We don't live in fear. We live in a gorgeous county that we understood when we came here. We understood we were coming for the parks and the schools and the roads. We're here because we love it. Thank you for supporting it, and I'll continue to support you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment for today. And thank you to all the speakers who came. We always appreciate your words. So the next is Ms. Hopkinson with our monthly financial report. And Mr. Surges, I see you on screen. Welcome. And the board has allowed you to come on and fully participate.
Thank you so very much.
Oh, and Miss Allen, you're there as well? No, she's, Deb, if you can hear.
Good morning.
Unmute. Deb, when you're ready, just come on in. Ms. Hopkinson.
I'll just start off with comments on our audit. So the county filed its 2023 audit report. The report is up on the county's finance webpage. We received a clean audit opinion. The audit communications letter, which is a required letter that audit firms must send to their auditees, which covers things like how did you cooperate with management? Were there any concerns, et cetera? That letter is also posted to the King County Finance Department homepage, and we had no issues, so all good. Our 2022 audit report, which we had submitted to the GFOA, Government Finance Association, for an award. We received notice that we received the award. We also received notice that we received an award on our 2024 budget document that we submitted. And thanks to all of the finance staff, a lot of work goes into putting together an audit report. As far as our audit firm, we went out, we issued an RFP last month because our 5-year contract with our audit firm expired. We received 2 proposals last Thursday. We have an evaluation team that will be meeting this Friday to review the 2 proposals. And we hope to have a decision soon for our audit firm for our 2024 audit. The other big item before I talk about the budget, I mentioned this at the Finance Committee. We partially defeased a portion of the Long Meadow toll revenue bonds. We funded a little over $18 million. It was the $17.5 million grant that the county received from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, plus interest earned that had accumulated in the Long Meadow Fund. So we funded a little over $18 million. The county will not have to, we're done for the time being. We no longer have to make any principal and interest payments on that debt until at least 2028. The county is hopeful that in between that time, the county receives the extra $12.5 million to entirely, completely defease those bonds. But the good news is that the Department of Transportation does not have to use any of their sales tax revenue to pay towards that debt. And thank you to our bond counsel and our financial advisor and to the trustee and to the treasurer. Everybody had to work very quickly within a very short period of time to run all the numbers, get all the documents signed, and fund this escrow closing. So that's good news for the county. The budget, we had the regular finance committee meeting. We had a special finance committee meeting last week. We have another special finance committee meeting coming up this Monday. The special finance committee meetings are for the purpose of going over the proposed 2025 budget. As part of the presentation, we are where we are with the general fund is that we have a $29 million deficit in our general fund, which is about a quarter of the total expenditures in that fund. And the finance committee is working and meeting to identify ways to come up with solutions to solve that problem and to close that deficit. And I think I'll just leave it there. If anyone has
Madam
any-
Chair, Surges,
Yes, Mr. Sturgis, I recognize you.
I had, after the last finance committee meeting, special finance committee meeting, it was my understanding that Kathy was going to be working with two members of our board to try and move this forward. I had asked Kathy directly if we could, and I'm going to use the wrong terminology, but if we could find some way to create like a Google Drive type document that fell in compliance with IT and the state's attorney's office that would allow a certain level of transparency that we could and efficiency so that we could all work a little bit quicker on this. And rather than trying to email everybody separately and blah, blah, listen, if one person wants this, this is the effect, and we could all see it at the time. Otherwise this is going to take months and months and months. I ran into Ms. Hopkinson yesterday, who said that while the state's attorney and IT said that's not a problem, we can do that, that there were certain members of the committee that did not want that to happen. I think that's a mistake. I think that we should be as transparent as is humanly possible and find a way to move this along. And I just wanted to voice that here. I will be voicing it to Mr. Berman, before the next special meeting, to try and get some movement on this. And I just wanted to voice that out loud.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. Mr. Berman is here in the room. He heard you loud and clear, as did the other members of that small task force who had that opportunity to meet. So if that were to take place, the report would have to be written. I don't know if I've not seen a copy of that final report and document. So once that gets posted, I'm sure that that can happen amongst that committee once we receive the information.
Yeah, the site has been set up by the IT department. It's essentially an internal SharePoint site. I did send an email to the state's attorney's office. I have not heard back from them yet. So that's where we are on that.
Thank you.
And as a reminder, anything that we do here is foiable and therefore should be accessible to the public. And that is one concern that we have to be mindful of any documents that we put forward when we're talking about budgetary issues. So that's my 2 cents on that. Yes, sir.
Well, Kathy, were you done?
I'll just add one more thing. I did just want to acknowledge, we did get the request from the board regarding a history and a forecast on all staff salaries. We are working to put that information together. Not as easy as punching one button to get a report like that. So we hope to have that for Monday's meeting.
And that report is for what range? Are we
It's
looking at how many
asking for
years?
changes in salaries from 22 to 2023, 23 to 24, 24 to 25, and 25 to 26. So actual plus forecast, actual dollar changes.
All right. Sir.
Davis here, at the risk of groans and eye rolls, I'll take this opportunity to be the broken record again and mention, as I did, it seems like just yesterday, but I suppose it's several months ago, that when you look at the RTA allocation and consider moving that as part of the solution to our gap. And I fully acknowledge that we have a gap and cuts are going to have to be made, and people are all going to have to compromise. But ROI, just as a reminder, that's return on investment. When you move $6 million, I think that's approximate, away from transportation to use somewhere else in the budget, you get $6 million value. When you leave it where it is for the use of transportation, it is leveraged into 2 to 3 times that much. So when you go to start moving things, don't be financially foolish, is my message. That money is far more valuable the way it's being used now than you will get from it if you move it to another spot in the budget. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the finances? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Hopkinson. Our public information officer is out of pocket today. She sends her regards, but will not be able to do her presentation. So I'd like to, it's my turn right now, and I have handed out, all of you have it, your committee's goals and objectives. And I would just like for you to review these and have the opportunity. They're all together, so you can take a look at what everybody else's goals and objectives are. I think you'd find it to be of interest. And if there's any changes or edits to any of this, please let Jane know as quickly as possible. The goal is going forward into the new fiscal year. We will be adding this to the last page of your agenda. And you can then evaluate to make sure that things that you are passing, things that you are agreeing to meet forward with these goals. So this is an active list. This is your strategic plan, your mini strategic plan. This is what your goals that you have set for your committee. So please, again, take a look at it. If you serve on a different committee and you chair one committee, but you think that maybe it should be amended somehow, do this immediately. Take a good look at it. And I'd like to compliment you all. You've been very thoughtful with all of this. So well done. And I hope that those people who are not here, we will put a copy of this in your mailbox and you'll be able to have it. Or we can send it to you electronically if that has not already been done, which I think it has been. The next thing, it is my duty and my privilege to share with you the county board's budget for this upcoming year. And I believe we have a slide. Oh, there it is. Very nice. Thank you. It's not. Oh. We have, for those, we've got pads underneath there and they're all, with the new carpeting, they're not laid down well, so I get stuck in a rut. So next page, please. Well, we're going to go on to the details. This is very easy to read. And again, it's not a complicated budget. Our liquor licenses, that's the revenue we taken from our liquor licenses. That was in 23. Remember, we were giving a discount for all of these liquor licenses due to the pandemic, and that stopped, and now it is at whole. So 24, we had a little bit less, and the amended budget is 90. You can see our forecast has actually gone up because we're collecting whole numbers now. So it's 146,450. And at 130,000, we have one liquor license that has been, that is open right now. A facility was closed. So we have a liquor license, I believe, available. There may be two, but I know for sure there has recently been one. It had nothing to do with going out of business because it wasn't being used. It was some other issues for the community to know. Gathering permits, that's the same thing for a wedding, celebration, et cetera. So that's what that is about. That fluctuates in how many outdoor weddings and venues for special events are happening. Here's our expenses right now, and here's the salaries. Remember that this does include the American Rescue Plan Committee, which is a budget funded. But we do take care of that. That comes out of our department. It is an ad hoc committee. You would have seen this differently if it had been moved to finance, but the board decided to keep it at because it's, that was a decision made. So that salary is included in that. Contractual services, you see that the number is going up, and I'll show you why on the next slide for the total amount. And then commodities have been pretty stagnant, even though they have gone up. Commodities have stayed pretty pretty standard with what we have. Could I have the next page, please? Okay, so here we get into contractual services, so you can see what it's all about. The consulting services. Now, we have an adopted budget of for 24 of 253,350. The reason for that adopted budget is that we have $120,000 that the board approved for the lobbyist. I put $5,000 in there just in case we needed some other advice, another consultant to come in to be used. I've not used that amount of money yet, but that is an opportunity for us, which I may take advantage of. And we're also taking a look at the strategic plan is included in that amount as well, which the board approved. Repairs and maintenance, general printing, conferences and meetings. Now, this is something I'd like to talk a little bit more about. I'd like to hand out something to you. This was a resolution that was passed in 2020, I believe in March. Now,
Madam
as
Chair, is that available on screen at all? If you're passing something out now?
I have hard copy. We can, if Jane has not sent that out, Cliff, we will make sure that we get that to you.
Madam Chair, I'll take a picture and send it to anybody who wants it.
Oh.
Thanks, Mavis.
Oh, thank you, Mavis. That's very kind, very
I'm on
kind.
it.
I think you were part of this vote. And yeah, you actually voted on this resolution, Cliff.
Cliff, you should have it.
So I surveyed many of you. I think I got to almost all of you, what you thought you wanted to have for conferences and meetings going forward. And it went from anywhere from 7,500 to 24,000. And that was the range that we were looking at. And after having a conversation with Mr. Berman and others, I decided that we're going to go mid-range to $12,000. So that is your choice for this, because this is your budget for going on travel expenses. But I thought this $12,000 seems to be a very moderate amount. It's certainly a significant increase than the 3,500 we had before. So it's almost, it's it's about three times more than what we had before for travel. And you can see my budget for conferences and meetings was raised from 3,250 to 4,000. So I raised mine $750 for the expense. Now, I'd like to go back to your meetings and the reason for those handouts. This is resolution 20-98, and it was signed on March 20th, 2020 by Chris Lawson and of course, John Cunningham, who signs all of our resolutions. And what it says is that it was voted upon that each board member could have no more annual expenses for reimbursement than $750. Now, some of our board members have less than that. Some of you have none. Some of you have more. So, but we have a standing resolution. So the question I have for you, and I will ask our state's attorney, and he doesn't have to reflect on this now, but if you would like to amend that so that board members would have the opportunity to have more expenses than $750, we will need to amend this resolution, which we can do at a later date. But right now, this is just the budget. So if I may, oh, I'm sorry, it's the allergies always continually. Let me share with you who voted upon this, and we have some of our city board members from 2020 who are still on the board. Deb Allen, Mark Davos, Mr. Kenyon, Mr. Caius, Mr. Leonard, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Sanchez, and Mr. Surges, all approved of the $750 limit. Correct. These were the yes votes. So. So we have mileage, employee mileage, $100. You do see we have nothing in the 25 budget for that. And general association dues, NACO, ISACO, and who am I missing? The other Illinois Association
of County Board Members.
Thank you. Have pretty much remained the same. So I think the biggest question, I've explained the contractual services, those are all pre-approved. So there's nothing out of turn with any of that. That was all board mandate, board voted, is the conferences and meetings. And Mr. Caius, your hand was up.
Sure. I'm trying to work through the math on this. If, when we voted on in 2020 for $750 per board member and 24 board members, my math comes up with $18,000.
Well, what happened with, that's a very good question, and I thought about that as well. In the original resolution in 20, that budget was set at 5,000. So it's first come, first served, because knowing that not all board members, and we've heard this conversation amongst our board members, not all board members are going to be using this. So we set a limit. So if it's anticipated that each one of you are planning on going on a trip for $750, I would totally agree. But that would have to be something that the 24 of you would say, yes, I am planning on spending $750 in fiscal 25. If not, it's first come, first serve.
I guess that's my question. Is it first come, first serve, or is it that each one spends $750 and they're off? Is that the way that's
in this-
interpreted?
This is,
They're done?
this is first come, first serve. The existing,
Right above it.
existing resolution is first come, first serve.
Look at the line right above the 750. It says first come, first serve.
Well, I'm guessing, well, I understand. It first come, first serve of what? The $750 or the total amount of $18,000?
Well, right now we have budgeted at 12,000, not 18. And remember that the board has got to approve any reimbursements that come through.
I understand.
So,
So is it of the, if I want to spend $3,000, even though it says $750, it's still first come, first serve of the $12,000?
correct,
Okay, that's just that clarification.
Correct.
That's all.
correct.
So the $750 is just a calculation amount for the total amount of $18,000. And in the budget, you would have $12,000. And then who first comes, first serve of that 12,000, just to reiterate.
Of the seven, if
Madam
you want
Chair.
to keep the limit to $750.
The current limit based on this
well-
resolution, pardon me, is $750.
So you take 5,000 divided by 750, and that's how many people can use this.
No,
No, no.
because, I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of
Oh,
turn.
yes,
if I may,
Ms. Molina, please.
I think one of the reasons when I brought this issue up months ago was that I wanted to make sure we had all the information gathered so that we can share information with our board members when they, when they come on board, when they're new board members, what we offer as a county board for these types of services. But this resolution basically says, for, whatever year you want to go on, there's $750 in your pot. You can decide to use it or not, but you have $750. And the quicker you use it, then we know how much money is left. But that's the maximum amount that would be reimbursed per county board member based on this resolution. And I think it's a good amount. But I don't think we've done that in the last few years. So.
No, and this resolution was I just discovered it. We,
Madam Chair.
so this is, as soon as I found out about it, I wanted to share it with all of you. Mr. Berman had his hand up.
Berman here. All this points out is we don't have a policy. And I think we were working on a policy, were we not? Where do we stand? Are we,
That as an update, I asked two of our board members to put that forward and they were a bit of an impasse. So some of that, I've talked to Ms. Hopkinson, and some of that $5,000 I would like to use to have somebody come by from our audit firm to take a look at this and develop a policy to bring forward to the board, which is based upon not only this resolution, but also based upon best practices from our other collar counties so that we can use that as a template. And both of them seem to be okay with that. So then they can take a look at the template, that suggested template from a professional, and then bring it, of course, to the board for your review. Yes.
At $5,000 for the total divided by $750, that's 6 people
Who would be traveling.
who could use it.
$5,000.
$5,000 divided by 750
But this is,
is 6 2/3 people.
but we can change, the
Yes.
budget can be changed as this resolution can be
Mhm.
changed. So Mr. Linder, you had your hand up.
I just want to note that $750 is fine for hopping around to these meetings in the collar counties or in the city. If we start talking about board member who on behalf of the board attends meetings out of town with hotel expenses, travel expenses and so forth, $750 isn't going to do it. It just isn't. Lots of times the conference fee would be half of that. So we're going to have to still work some more on how this goes. Where I got stuck on all of this is that I looked at the county code, and the county code basically says that the board approves the expenses of board members, and that it doesn't. The county code doesn't put a limit on it, or even suggest that there would be a limit. It's limited by what the board will approve. And that is a conundrum because we had a board member who traveled 2 months ago. And when the expenses were presented, very legitimate expenses, very much the business of the county. But it was shocking to everybody because, oh my gosh, we really don't have a spot in the budget that covers that. But at the same time, what do? You don't just say it's open-ended. So I'm stuck. I don't know where we go. I know that $12,000 would probably cover maybe 4 out-of-town conferences for people. We don't have that many people doing that right now, but part of that is because they'd be out of pocket for thousands if they stuck to the budget. Again, the budget, budget's a plan. We all the time end up approving expenses that are under or over budget, but it is a kind of a conundrum here as to how we put this in place. We certainly have to do something about that resolution that you found because that's ridiculous. But I don't know where we come up with a dollar amount. I suggested to you that twice this amount to be in the budget, and I know some other people disagreed with that. So it is where it is. But to think that we would have people representing us to a conference in downtown Chicago, maybe, as long as they come home every night. But if we start sending them to Indianapolis, to Washington, to any of those places, this amount is totally insufficient.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Yes, Mr. Davis.
Having been part of the ridiculousness, as was just pointed out, I think there's a couple of problems. Mr. Caius pointed out one simple problem in the math was we have 24 people use $750. That's 18,000. We've only budgeted 12. So you get, this has shed some light on something that we need to adjust. We need to fix. Sadly, I think it is reflective of many, many years of us failing to be more engaged with things that happen outside of Kane County or in Springfield or Washington. And we are now fortunate to have people in much more active roles in a legislative committee that is far more engaged. And we have a lobbyist who's, doing the work on our behalf. So we were able to ignore this for many years because nobody was going and doing these things. And clearly that has changed. This is something that needs to be updated and addressed and appropriate dollar amount added to the budget for it. So we have to fix it. That's,
Okay, we have, hold on a second, please. Ms. Combs, your hand is up. I recognize you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate all the due diligence on this topic as I'm, as you are aware, intimately involved. I would just like to point out, and thank you, Mr. Davis, for addressing this. We talked about what the other or Madam Chair, you spoke about what the other color counties are doing, and I can tell you in my 2 trips throughout this year, the other color counties not only send 1 representative, but usually they have half of their team there. Mr. Davis did indicate that we historically haven't gone to these things, and I find that it's incredibly important. I suspect that if the other board members would participate as well, that they too would find that it's important and beneficial to the residents of this county. So I don't think that the $12,000 is sufficient. That's my perspective. Also, you know, doing the math here, if you have $750, that won't even cover the cost of the conference fee itself. So a deeper conversation perhaps should happen, and that's my 2 cents on it. And the idea that we're going to stagnate and not get more involved is just a little odd to me. So I hope that's not the case, and I hope other board members will participate and travel so they can bring back other wonderful things to the residents here.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. Yes, Ms. Lewis.
So as one of the co-conspirators with Mr. Davis in the ridiculousness of 2020, the way it was looked at back then, as I recall, is it was on a first come, first served basis till we reached that 5,000. People were asked to limit their stuff to 750, so there'd be a little bit more to go around. Many people did not travel, and it was also recommended that when we did travel, it would come out of our exorbitant annual wage of $25,000. So that was one of the things that, you know, they were saying, well, you're making $25,000, so spend your own money on your conference. So I don't think that we were stagnant. I know over the past 6 years, I've attended many things, and it's come out of my $25,000, right or wrong. I'm not saying, but that's how it was thought of back then. So, but definitely it's time to rediscuss it, but probably this morning's not the time, because I think it's going to be a long committee discussion or a smaller group discussion.
So my takeaway on all of this conversation, bringing this to the committee chairs, is that I don't see any concern about any of the other items. None of you have voiced an opinion on any of those. And we can pull that amount of money out. We can use that as a $12,000 placeholder at this point, so we can start working with the numbers. And we will continue to then present this to the Finance Committee, because remember, the Finance Committee is the one who will present it to the Executive Committee with a full budget and make those recommendations. And with your consensus, I will reach out and get an amount of money that I can spend out of my $5,000 for the consultant to put this together, so we have good eyes on it, of a neutral expert who can share with all of you his or her insights on how we can best practice fiscal responsibility for travel and conferences for our board members. All right, thank you so much. That concludes that presentation. Page 3. Thank you, Blair. We are now on the preliminary county board agenda, and I turn it over to Mr. Sanchez.
Madam Chair, we have 6 resolutions from the American Rescue Plan to present to you today. I do have an amendment to make to the first one. So I don't know if the proper procedure is that I just call that one up first, we make the amendment, and then call the other ones.
Yes.
We'll make the motion for the first resolution authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery revenue loss recoupment funds to fund the transitional housing program for the Kane County Sheriff's Office. Ask for a second.
Deputy seconds.
And then I will make the motion to amend the dollar amount. You'll see if you go to the final whereas right before the resolved clause, you'll see the amount is $382,950. And so I would just like to amend that to be only $300,000. That was based on the conversation we had at our last meeting and just wanting to free up some more of the revenue recoupment funds that we have.
Deputy seconds the amendment.
All righty. We have a second. Is there any discussion on this?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Molina.
Sheriff, were you going to do your presentation to do both of those or?
Yeah, just to explain a little bit further, at the ARP committee meeting, when this was voted forward, there were questions about a little more detail on the project so everybody can wrap their head around it. Blair, if you should just flip forward to the.
Hold on, we got to do the amendment first.
We've got to do the amendment first,
Don't we-
absolutely.
No, we have to
There was a
do-
motion and a second on the amendment to move it to
have a motion and a
300,000.
second on the.
So
Would be part of the presentation of the amendment because he's talking about changing the amounts. So I think that's included in the sheriff's presentation of the amount that was originally thought of and now the amount that isn't. I'd like him to do his presentation just so that we have a better idea of what we're voting on.
yes, yes, sir.
As long as the discussion is tied to the change in the amount, that's allowable right now.
I'm thinking,
And
yes.
then once the vote goes through on the amendment, then you can do the larger presentation.
Yeah, we did change the amount a little bit at the American Rescue Plan Committee meeting. And this is just kind of further fine tuning that amount. So I don't know if it would be quicker just to vote on this and then go to the full presentation.
I would concur with this and we can.
We can talk
Ms.
about
Molina, we
anything
can-
at that
We
point.
can amend it again if necessary. So we have a motion and a second to approve the change from $382,900, what is $50, thank you, to 300,000. Ms. Allen, welcome. Yes, sir.
It's just point of information that, so we're voting on an amendment to,
Reduce it,
and we've already got a motion and a second to pass this.
to amend it.
Don't we have to present it and then amend it?
No.
You have a motion to pass it as submitted, and then there was a motion made to amend the amount and reduce it. So that's what's presently
Okay.
before the committee.
All right, no other discussion about the change of amount. So please take the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Thumbs,
Present.
Caius,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Deputy, yes.
passes.
Very good. All right, so miss the presentation now, please.
All right, sure. You guys are gonna be really disappointed. It's about 45-minute presentation. It's all text, okay? I kid. It's very brief, just a few quick bullet points to make this concise and complete. So as we've worked to make our jail into a nationally recognized facility for reducing recidivism, reducing crime, reducing jail population and saving a lot of money, I've talked for the last 6 years about how our biggest obstacle and struggle continues to be reentry housing for those coming back out into the community. There's been numerous different iterations, different ideas, last 2 years, different submissions to the ARP committee, trying to present ideas of locations and funding to make this all a reality, to continue to support our most delicate portion of our community, arguably. Blair, you can go ahead and populate all that stuff up there. Thank you very much. So like I said, it continues to be a blockade. What we voted on in July at the ARP committee was $695,000 for the building itself located at 131 West Illinois, with an additional $100,000 just in refurbishment and furnishings for the location. Why Aurora? Well, approximately 30% of our jail population comes from that city. So they're our biggest influx to the incarcerated and outflux that are coming back home, and many of them without support for housing. Next slide, please. You can populate all those too as well. So this will be an all-male facility. It doesn't work well to combine women and men. Because our female demographic is so small to be reentering, we're very comfortable in being able to find them housing in other locations by the ones and twos that we may face a year. And that's about what we average, about 1 to 2 females a year needing support with housing. This will include all people that must have successfully completed or participated in our recovery pod program that we've talked about a lot. They will be all nonviolent. The most violent offender would be somebody convicted of domestic battery, non-sex offenders, and those returning from Illinois Department of Corrections that meet all of those demographics. I do have to point out, as some people are concerned about, hey, do we really want reenterers living in this building? I'm here to tell you that 100% of the population that's in there right now are completely unmonitored, completely unsupported, and they're all people who have reentered and are struggling with addiction issues, and it's operated by an independent property owner. This, under the sheriff's office, would be supported, it'd be monitored, video recorded at all times, and we have complete control over who is residing in this location. Go ahead to the next one, Blair. Like I talked about before, you see the $100,000 for refurbishment. There are 4 apartments in there. We look to place 2 males in each apartment. We give them the first month of residency free of charge to get them back up on their feet and allow them to re-enter into society successfully. Once we place them in a job, by the end of that first month, we begin charging them $750 per month per person, generating that revenue there that you see, $72K. The cost for maintenance on average is $5 per square foot at 8,900 square feet. So that will cost us about $44,600 in maintenance. Now you see our plan is to generate almost double the revenue to be able to recoup the cost and of course return that revenue into funding all of our programs that go on there. Additional revenue, there's a AA group that holds a large space on the first floor of that building. That's also great access. We would allow them to keep operating in there. It would support all the things that we do. There's also a billboard on top of the building that generates revenue to help offset the cost. I think there's another slide there. Okay. Additional county usage. Big buildings, very exciting. We would love to have a East Aurora substation. Obviously, it's important for security of the building if we're able to put that big, beautiful sign on the right there on the front of it and allow our deputies to use it as office space. A myriad of vocational training rooms exist throughout the building, and we'd like to have a check-in point in that area of the county for our continued addiction treatment programs, drug test locations. Court services can use it for the same reasons. It just affords a bigger countywide opportunity in our biggest city in the county and where the biggest demographic of reenterers are coming back to. So I hope that kind of explains finances, purpose, and operations a little bit clearer.
I have a question. Going back to the rent of $750 per month, thumbnail math I just did. When people go out to find employment, they have to make about $40,000 a year because that would be 30% of their basically take-home revenue, probably a little less, more than that. Yep. So is that the kind of employment opportunities you'll be able to present to these individuals?
Yes, absolutely. That's where our range of income is sitting at right now, anywhere from 35 to 45,000, what the jobs we're placing them in.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Sheriff, for your presentation. I know we've been going back and forth and talking about this since our last meeting. I also did reach out to the Alderman, Mike Seville, to ask, what his thoughts were, since this is in his ward. It's across the street from my district. It's not actually my district. It's Mr. Ford's district. But I did reach out to him to ask, what his thoughts were. His concerns were with the permitting and the zoning issues of the building. It is on a residential street, so that there does need to be some conversation had whether or not we would meet the permitting and the zoning, the special zoning use for this property. He did ask that we allow the city to have some, kind of some conversation with the sheriff and our county legal team to discuss that. And he did request that we kind of table both of these for the next 30 days to allow that to happen. And I would request that as good neighbors, we are buying a property on, the city within the city limits that we table both of these for 30 days and allow that to happen, see what their feedback is on this idea, and then come back next month to vote on this.
Has that not been done?
Which part?
Mr. Sanchez, has that not been done?
What not been done, Madam Chair?
The preparation to present this to this committee. Has that due diligence not been done as far as talking to the alderman going through the city permitting?
Discussions are ongoing. And at this point, I would ask that we don't table it. I think from the perspective of the ARPA timeline, it would give us more flexibility if we move it forward, knowing that we're in talks. And if something doesn't work out on Aurora's end, we can always pull back. But let's say in 2 weeks, Aurora understands what we're trying to do, is in agreement with it, wants to give it approval, we'll be able to act very quickly and make sure that we can get the kind of approval from Aurora that we need in a timeline that is more agreeable to ARPA, which, you know, as we all know, that day, the December 31st date is drawing near. So I guess just from my perspective, I'll you know, we'll do whatever the committee wants. But adding another 30 days could put us in a potential time risk. That's the only concern that I would have at this point.
You move it to county
Madam-
board, you could postpone it at that time.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
may,
yes, Ms.
when I did reach out to the alderman, this was the first he heard of this project, and he was deeply concerned. So I think just in good faith, I think, I know it's going to be a little bit of a hardship for the ARPA committee, but I think we have a good team in place that they can handle it. To just in good faith, just have conversations with the city, and come back in 30 days and vote on it then. Other than at this point, if we were to vote on it now, we would be showing bad faith, saying, you know, we don't really care about your concerns. We're just going to push this forward to the next meeting. When in reality, I think we do have a little bit of time. I know it's not Mr. Sanchez's preference, but we do have a little bit of wiggle room. We are going to have more ARPA meetings next month too, to push more projects forward. So I would just request that we just act in good faith and just do what they're requesting, which is to postpone both of these for 30 days. So my motion would be to postpone both resolution 1 and 2 for 30 days.
8 seconds.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to postpone the two recommendations, first and second resolutions for funding for a potential building for the, what's the name of, what would you call this?
Transitional.
Transitional housing program?
Transitional housing, thank you. Transitional housing buildings.
Technically,
building.
only resolution 1 is presently before you. It doesn't mean you can't make that motion, a second motion.
So we're only, thank you, sir. First resolution only, and then we can address the second one when we get to that point. So motion and a second. Is there any discussion on postponing?
Madam Chair Gums.
Oh, hold on, Ms. Gums. Yes,
This is
sir.
Caius. I'm just concerned about I understand there's problems that could happen on either side that could delay it. I'd hate to have it get where they finally say yes, and we're not in a position to pass it for whatever reason. So my thought would be to pass it and ask for the understanding, knowing that the alderman is part of a government process and understands that things go slowly. So we're just holding up our end of trying to get it through. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. We still have a opportunity to recoup or use this money for something else down the line. Very quickly, right? We use it for capital spending or something like that. But I would say we go forward on our end.
And I believe that was confirmed.
Yes, Madam Chair Sanchez, we definitely know that the projects that we're looking to approve at this point in time, if something doesn't come through, we can move that money around to something else. There are other projects that could use some more money. There are ones that we know that will happen, but I will also add that I don't see us, if we approve this today and move it forward to the county board just to give us more opportunity, I don't see that as rejecting any of the wishes of Aurora's board. I think it's what Mr. Kai said. We all know kind of the speed of government and how there's a lot of different moving parts that aren't always in coordination on the same timeline, the same calendar. So I just look at us approving this, moving this forward is just giving us that opportunity to act more quickly if our conversations with Aurora go well and they're looking to approve this usage.
Okay.
And I did want to ask the sheriff, I don't know if, I think you mentioned it briefly, what is that building currently used for?
Exactly the same thing that we're going to use it for.
Okay.
Housing. Ms. Gums?
May I, if I may, I don't think exactly the same thing because we would need a special use to house, to house a
Excuse me,
program.
Right now, we're off topic.
Yeah.
Right now.
I
It's
just don't want to make, I mean, it's not exactly
postponed.
for the.
Ms. Gums?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am not in support of postponing this. I think we can push it forward here. Frankly, I know some of the aldermen are aware of this, speaking with them directly. Government is slow moving, but we don't need to be slow moving. And I think that we have great respect with the city of Aurora and they're understanding our process here. I'm not in support at all of tabling this or postponing it.
Okay, thank you very much. One more comment, and I think we're ready to take that vote. Yes.
I also talked with Alderman Mike Seville, whose ward this is in. And I want to agree with Ms. Molina. I think it would be somewhat disrespectful to be moving this forward without their having more time to look into it and work on the zoning, the special use permit.
All right. Are we ready to?
So
take
I
a
would
vote?
support the tabling.
This is, we're going to be taking a vote to table, postpone, thank you for the correction, postpone this for 30 days until the next executive committee meeting, which is, we have a date for that? September, to the September executive. There you go.
Madam Chair, before we take the vote, question Gums.
Yes, Ms. Gums.
Just a quick question. What happens in between, if this should pass and we postpone it? What do we anticipate is going to take place in 30 days that will change something? I mean,
I
what are
believe
the
that-
steps being taken to get the city of Aurora and King County on the same page here? I would like an answer to that.
We need to take the vote first, and then that question can be addressed.
Well, it affects my vote. It affects my vote.
It's germane to the question.
Is Jermaine?
I mean, if nothing's happening in 30 days, then
From my understanding, Madam Gums.
We've got many voices at the table, but we have not yet heard from the board member who resides with Mr. Ford. This is under your jurisdiction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do know this site and the place pretty well, long before I got here, and it is pretty much used for the same thing.
Thing being residential.
Right. And I think the great thing about doing it this way would be more of a controlled atmosphere. And even though it's a residential street, it's a small dead end street, and there's commercial on that street already, even on that side street. But I think we can move it forward in the respect that it's in the hands of the city of Aurora. I think that would be the way to do it. I mean, no matter what, you got to go through the city of Aurora. So we can move this forward in the respect that it's in the hands of the city of Aurora.
All right, so the question on the table, and that would be answered to you, sir. What next steps have to take place for this building to be approved by the city of Aurora within that 30-day period?
So just having meetings with the Aurora aldermen and staff, that's ongoing. I know the sheriff has a meeting scheduled for October 14th, August 14th, October 14th. I'm in fall already. Summer feels over. So we are, that's the process really, is just having that conversation. And that is something we've talked about this whole time with this project. We've been in various stages of trying to execute it. And now it's come before us because we know there is a path forward, assuming we get that approval. So I think it's just educating the aldermen a little bit more on what this proposal really is. And then going from there, and we know if they turn around and reject it, then we can move these funds somewhere else safely. So I think moving this forward just gives us maximum flexibility to have those conversations and to move quickly if we come to an agreement.
Madam Chair, I have a parliamentary suggestion.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Shepro,
Yes, Mr.
if the
Shepro.
concern is that you're sending a signal that you don't care about the city of Aurora, if the board did not vote to postpone, you could amend the resolution and simply add to it that it is being forwarded subject to receipt, well, not, I wouldn't say approval, but because you don't want to tie your hands. But if you said subject to receipt of comments or evaluation from the city of Aurora, you could then take action at the county board or not, and you wouldn't be saying that you're doing it without mentioning the city. That's just a suggestion.
And if I might add, Madam Chair, I
Madam-
think that's a good suggestion, but also just knowing this, even if the county board were to approve it as it is, it doesn't mean we go ahead the next day and buy a building. We still would want to wait for those discussions with Aurora to take place. And if it's not going to look good, we're not going to go forward with it. So that's another thing to consider as well. Approval from the county board does not mean we are going to do this no matter what. It means that now we have the opportunity to do it.
And if we
Madam Chair
could-
Gums.
Ms. Gums, just a minute, please, and I will recognize you. We're missing the other qualification for buying a building for the county, because this will be under the sheriff's watch, but it'll be a county building. We need to make sure that the building itself is stable. So
That's
there has-
actually off the subject of the amendment.
Correct, but that's part
Yes.
two. That'll be part two, which has not yet been talked about. So are we have an amendment, a
You have a
suggestion.
motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone, but we have a suggestion for an amendment to this, to the motion to postpone, and that would be to add language.
Well, that would be if that, you can't amend the motion to postpone.
So let's take the vote on that and then we can
Ma-
amend it.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair Gums.
And Ms.
still-
Gums, yes. Yes,
Oh,
please.
Thank you. Thank you. I think my questions have been answered here. I'm still in favor. I will not be supporting a postponement of this. I think the intent is clear that we'll be working with the city of Aurora. We have been. We need to go forward with this, and so I'll be a no on the postponement and a yes on the other.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I'll withdraw my motion to postpone. If we could go ahead and, if you can help me withdraw that motion to postpone and add that language for the Aurora in there, I think that's a good compromise.
Okay, excellent. Well done. Well done. All right. So who seconded? Ms.
I did.
Bates?
I'll withdraw.
Withdraw as well. That motion has been withdrawn. So now we're back to the original suggestion. We've passed the 300,000. And now would anybody like to amend?
Madam
this
Chair Ford,
forward?
I would like to make the motion with amendment as spoken just a few moments ago that,
Would you like to turn the microphone on to?
yes.
Mr. Shepro?
Yes.
If he'll repeat what he said.
Yes, if I remember it, it would be that it would be approved, subject to receiving and evaluating comments from the city of Aurora, if that's the sense of what people were concerned about.
That's it.
All right, hold on a second. We need to read it. Can you read that back to us, please?
Whereas are they there for?
Hold on, please, hold on. There's a motion on the table presented by Mr. Ford to amend this resolution to read.
I didn't get the first, all I got was approved subject to receiving any evaluating comments from the city of Aurora.
Is that accurate, sir?
Yes.
That is accurate.
Evaluating comments.
Okay.
Good
could
one.
you
Have a
read it?
second.
All right, did everybody get a chance to hear it clearly? Yes, yes, Mr. Tepe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is so extremely vague. There's no,
Excuse me, Mr. Tepe, there's no discussion yet. We don't have a second on this. Do we?
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis, okay. Okay, Mr.
Thank
Tepe.
you. This is so extremely vague. I don't understand how it could be satisfied. There's, we're not asking, you're not asking them, you're saying positive comments from the city of Aurora. And
That's not part of the motion, Mr. Tepe.
how would we receive information from the city of Aurora that would either satisfy or not satisfy this amendment?
That would be the judgment of the board when it comes to the full board. But it was, I mean, it was designed to be vague.
Again, pardon me, Madam Chair, but the problem is I don't see any action by anybody in the city of Aurora that is specified in this amendment.
Are you suggesting, but I think it was intentionally
Was it
vague because
designed?
it has to have permitting, zoning change.
And
special
that would
use.
take a long time. And we certainly don't want to postpone that. Pardon me for speaking out of turn.
Mr. Ford.
Madam Chair, thank you. In my take on this is what we're doing here, actually really saying that we support the idea of this project in respect to the city of Aurora. That's the way I look at it. It can't go anywhere once we approve it without the process through the city. So we're just telling the city that, hey, we would like to see this project go forward because we think it's positive for the community. To me, that's all we're saying.
It is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to move this forward, and of course, no action can be taken until it's approved by the full board, that with that approval, potential approval, it may take up to at least 60 days to go through, I would think more 90 days to get final approval. So that's September. We'd have to have final approval done by October so that the ARPA committee can immediately shift its gears if necessary to move that money into a different direction.
Madam Chair, if I may, Sanchez, I think that the full process of getting approval would take that length of time, but we would want an indication before then whether or not we should go ahead and move in that direction, because they're not going to make any votes on something that, we don't own. They're not just going to vote on the property as it is now. So we wouldn't even want to purchase the property unless they gave us that indication that there would be a positive reception for it. So we'll be able to find that out much sooner than 60 days.
Madam Chair
And
Gums.
I can't speak to Ms. Gums and then Mr. Linder, and I think we've had enough discussion then after this. Yes, Ms. Gums.
Thanks. It just, I'm a little bit confused because I think that this amendment is confusing the nature of governance to begin with. And I think it's not necessary to include this amendment. I think the way this resolution is written, the city of Aurora can read it, anybody can read it. And we work through the steps all the time in governance. So I think this is just complicating things to a level that's par for the course.
Much? No, Mr. Davis. Mr. Linder?
The sheriff has told us that this building is being used for a similar use at this point under a private landlord. Having the sheriff come in with residents who would be vetted and supervised and receiving services is going to improve the nature of that facility. If the city of Aurora has not moved to close it down because it's being operated contrary to zoning right now, I don't know that they're going to have any great objection, but it should be offered to them. And, if we hear some loud noise, we can come back and pull it. But I don't think we need to wait for full approval from the city because we are likely to lose the ARPA money.
Okay, thank you. We've had ample discussion on this. This is just for the
I'll
motion.
try to wrap it up and call for a vote if you'll just grant me one comment.
Very brief.
Yes. The only thing that has become more complicated is our discussion about it. The amendment, quite vague in its nature, is simply an add to avoiding the perception that we don't care about what Aurora thinks. It doesn't change our approach or anything else substantive of this resolution, it allows us to be set up for success and move forward while still acknowledging a collaborative effort with Aurora. That's it. Let's vote.
What are we voting
We're
on,
not,
please?
we're not voting on, we're just on,
The
just
amendment, the-
voting on the amendment.
Yes.
So clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Allen,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, no.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, no.
Pius,
Nice, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis present.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman, yes. Surges,
Sir, just confused. Are we voting to postpone this or are we voting to move it forward to the board?
We
we are voting to amend to add language that says approved subject to receiving any evaluating comments from the city of Aurora.
Surges, yes.
Pepe
Seppi, no.
passes with 3 noes.
And one,
11
Present.
yeses and 1 present.
One
One
present.
present, one confused.
I will know the confused turned, we turned his mind. All right,
present.
ladies and gentlemen, we've had ample discussion on this. I believe we are ready to take this vote. So with that, clerk, please call the roll. This is
Allen?
on Solution.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Bates,
Bates, yes, with gratitude, because I really did not want to have to vote against this. Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Pius,
Nice, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes, this is amazing.
There's more.
Quite this comedy.
There's more.
Lewis,
Lewis present.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes. And I do have a question after the vote.
Seppi, yes.
No, you don't.
is with 1 present.
One present.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
very good.
But wait, there's more.
All right, that passes. So now, Mr. Searches, we are moving on to part 2, which is related to part 1.
Okay, could I just ask one simple question though?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a defined liaison between our board and a defined person at the city of Aurora? Or do we have 4 representatives from our board that represent Aurora trying to reach 4 different representatives from their board? Like, how is that happening? And can we define that before we wrap this whole thing up?
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sturgis, we have obviously the sheriff and his team, I believe, is under sheriff. They just had to step out. They have another appointment to make. But they are the lead on this. And then obviously we have our ARPA team, Suzanne Fonstock, various board members that represent Aurora obviously are going to have communications with their aldermen, and that's natural and all and well. But the core team is the sheriff leading it and the ARPA team supporting it.
So Jared, would you, Madam Chair, if I can address Jared directly, would you feel that our representation, that this board is trying to cooperate extensively with what Aurora wants, has that been communicated clearly so that our actions aren't misconstrued?
I can't speak for the conversations Sheriff Hain has had with Aurora at this point, but I think if they listen to this conversation and weed through the confusion and all of that, they'll see that our intention is good, that we're not trying to steamroll anything, and that we really want to be good neighbors, good partners, government, and work with them.
Thank you for getting that on the record clearly. Thank you.
I would suggest that since it is in the jurisdiction of Mr. Ford, and now that that has been defined across the street from Ms. Molina, that he is part of that team. And then we also, we just went over our contract with our lobbyist. I would think that our lobbyist could also be part of this. conversation if needed to present the goals and opportunities that we would like to have for our sheriff's department.
You took the words out of my mouth, Madam Chair. Thank you.
So it is a county building, although the sheriff will be managing it. This is the board's building. Mr. Ford, I'm giving you, you'll be
I
making.
have no problem with that
Thank you.
task.
Thank you. You will earn your money.
Madam Chair, I think just given the nature of the amendment to the first part of this project, the first resolution, I think it'd probably be appropriate to amend this resolution to reflect the same addition, expressing the same.
But we do not have could you please present it so we can take a motion in a second to move
Oh,
it
have we
forward?
not opened it? I
Not,
thought
not
we
yet,
did.
sir.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because Cliff had his question. That's all right. And we just got lost. So I will make the
Not
motion.
going to ask any more questions.
Excuse me.
I will
let's
make
go.
the motion to approve the authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery funds to fund transitional housing program for the Kane County Sheriff's Office and ask for
Right.
a second.
Second, please.
Ford seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. All right. Now, you have an amendment that you would like to
Yeah,
make?
I'll move to amend this resolution to reflect the language that was also included in the previous resolution.
Which there were two amendments. Which one?
The one regarding Aurora,
Can you
not
read
the
that?
amount.
Can you read that back to us, please? She's coming.
Previously passed resolution.
To add language that says approved subject to receiving any evaluating comments from the city of Aurora.
All righty. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. All right. I think we have ample discussion on this.
Call the question, I think.
I have a
Ms.
point
Bates,
of
yes.
information. So is this going to be changed from $500,000 like the other one was changed?
No, this one is at $500,000 and that was the change we made at the committee,
But 5 minutes ago, we changed something
the
from.
previous resolution,
previous
taking
one.
from revenue recoupment, that
Correct,
other pot
correct.
of ARPA money.
Different
We
part of the
changed
budget.
that number down to just make it an even 800 total.
This one is staying at 500.
That one's staying, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Clerk, please take the roll.
Is this
And the amendment.
for amendment?
Mhm.
This is on,
Amendment.
yes.
With one more question.
Yes, sir.
Which pains me to do, but
This is on the amendment.
As much as it pains us.
Yeah.
this amendment goes to the, to the fine words that we got from Mr. Shepro. And it applies to, the concept of approaching the building and the whole use. But this is about just authorizing the use of the funds. I don't know that it's appropriate to wait for any comments at all from the city of Aurora about authorizing the use of the funds to do something. So, I don't
Sanchez
think
here.
that's an amendment that we really ought to be adding to this personally.
Sanchez here, if I may. I don't think that what we're adding is really saying, oh, we're waiting for Aurora to give our own authorization to use funds. We can authorize the usage of these funds, but we're basically saying we won't use these funds until we have a good indication from Aurora.
And it is specifically says here on the whereas the transitional housing program. So yes, it's a release of funds, but it's for a specific intent and purpose.
Yeah. Fine, that's
All
fine.
right, we ready? All right,
So call the
clerk, please
question.
take the roll. And this is on the amendment.
Mhm.
Allen? Bates?
Yes.
Berman?
No.
Davis?
Davis, yes.
Ford?
Ford, yes.
Gums?
Comes no.
Caius?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Lewis? Linder?
Linda, yes.
Molina?
Molina, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman?
Strathman, yes.
Surges? Mr. Surges?
Yes, sorry, hit the wrong button.
Happy.
Tepe, no.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Happy?
No.
Thank you. Passes with 3 noes, 1 present. 11 yeses.
That passes. All right, now.
The question
No.
is
Call the
on
question.
resolution.
On the
as
resolution. Thank you. So now we are discussing the resolution as amended.
I think we're voting on it now. I don't think
We're
we're
going
just.
to vote on it. I think we've had
But
enough.
please,
we've
let's
had
vote.
Ample conversation.
There's so much more to do.
Allen, Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
That was yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis, Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe.
Tepe, yes.
Passes with one present.
Okay.
All right, and if I may just have your attention one more time, I have 3 more resolutions for you, items 4, 5, and 6, and I will move them all together and ask for a second.
Tepe,
Molina
second.
seconds.
Zeppelina, is that the combination of you guys? These are very,
Point of order. What about number 3?
my apologies. I meant 3 through 6. I've had coffee today too. These are pretty simple. One is authorizing the agreement with Kane County Incredible Mind Incorporated for Behavioral Health 360 program. That is the $9 million overarching behavioral health program that we have previously approved. And this is just one of the contracts that are coming through for our authorization. Number 4 is the invoice payment and agreement with Submittable Holdings. That is the grant management software that we have been using and continue to use with great success. And then the other 2 are simply just amending budget tables for previously approved projects, just to reflect more accurate, up-to-date fiscal needs.
All right. Is there, did we have a second?
Molina
Yeah,
second.
Molina. I
Ms. Molina,
think she got it first.
and hearing no conversation, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
That was yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder, Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe.
Tepe, yes.
It pass.
All righty. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 resolutions. One is a proclamation recognizing Mott's Lounge in Burlington, Illinois on its 100th year anniversary. That means it was created in 1924. The second one is authorization of agreement between King County and the Fox Valley Park District for the completion of the environmental review for the Lebold Park Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge. The Park District has received, I believe, about $2.8 million from the federal financing through HUD. And this is just for the environmental review on the project.
Okay, thank
I
you.
would second them.
All righty. Any discussion on
Probably
any
be
of
Berman and
these?
Kenyon on that because they were there when they opened.
And Mr. Davis, I think you were there too.
Didn't have an ID. That's it.
Man, stop.
It is.
With no other discussion besides the happy birthday comments for Mott's, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen, Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
That was yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder, Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe.
Tepe, yes.
Passes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 16 resolutions in finance, and I would move for approval of 16 unless someone wants to pull one out.
Sanchez seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Righty.
One is a resolution approving June 2024 claims paid of $9,362,988.39. 2 is a resolution approving agreement with the EAG Great Lakes LLC doing business as Ramper to provide professional software implementation services to the Finance Department, a budget transfer of $57,708. 3 is a resolution approving purchase from Workday Adaptive Planning of Pleasanton, California for access to and use of data analytics and budgeting forecast software and budget transfer, $9,613. That's $4,000 transferred. 4 is a resolution emergency appropriation payment to the escrow agent for partial defeasance of the Long Meadow Toll Bridge Revenue Bond to count number 515, $18,217,306.78, and to account 625, $104,390.60. 5 is a resolution authorizing ERAP2 funding for external housing stabilization services, $721,219. 6 is a resolution authorizing a contract for the Kane County Building Management, Pavement Management Services with Patriot Maintenance Incorporated, bid number 24-036-PS for $1 million. 7 is a resolution authorizing a contract with Misfits Construction for the construction of the Chisholm Trail Draining Project for $183,000, actually $200,000 approved. 8 is a resolution authorizing a contract renewal for Kane County janitorial supplies with Warehouse Direct, bid number 22-018, $140,000. 9 is a resolution with a Metro West contract renewal for services, no amount. 10 is a resolution authorizing renewal of a support service contract for the Homeless Management Information System, $46,332.46. 11 is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Carroll County for juvenile detention services, $175 a day. 12 is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Montgomery County for juvenile detention services, $175 a day. 13 is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Shelby County for juvenile detention services of $175 a day. 14 is a resolution authorizing purchase of audio-visual equipment and supplies from Conference Technologies Incorporated, DBA CTI, $250,000. 15 is a resolution authorizing purchase of audio-visual equipment and supplies for the 16th Judicial Circuit Court from Conference Technologies Incorporated, DBA CTI, $198,649.65. And 16, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 vehicles for the Kane County Sheriff's Office, $151,184. That is
Thank
the
you.
extent of it.
Okay, very good. Oh, yeah, with no discussion on any of these items, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges. Mr. Surges,
Surges, yes.
thank you. Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
passes.
Good. Mr. Surges.
Madam Chair, I'm having some difficulties with a mouse. Mr. Tepe, can you read those or would somebody else?
Mr. Tepe.
Just need some cheese.
Be happy to read them.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm replacing a battery now.
I did too, because I think it's this.
Maybe give me.
That's better. There's a proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month 2024 in Kane County, Illinois. Whereas Pride Month is a time to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community's resilience, contributions, and diversity. And whereas celebrations include pride parades, picnics, parties, workshops, symposia, and concerts attracting millions of participants around the world. And whereas Kane County upholds equality, inclusion, and respect for all individuals, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And whereas Kane County recognizes the importance of fostering a community where everyone feels safe, valued, and empowered to live authentically. And whereas it is an imperative to confront and challenge discrimination and intolerance towards LGBTQ plus individuals, ensuring that our community is a place of acceptance and support for all. Therefore, be it resolved that the Kane County Board recognizes June 2024 as Pride Month. We encourage all residents to join in celebrating the LGBTQ plus community's achievements, promoting acceptance, and advancing equality for all.
All right. Was there a second on this?
Surges
Second.
moves and seconds or whatever is needed.
Okay, Mr. Sturgis, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this?
Yes, Surges discussion.
Yes. yes,
And
Mr.
thank you for your tolerance this morning. I mean, my mouse literally died as I'm doing that. So I'm trying to, but I'm functional now. I do want to acknowledge that we are way late on this. And this should, last year we said, if we're going to recognize this, we should be recognizing it a month or two before. I'm not sure how this slipped between the cracks again. To be doing it now is I don't want this to be perceived as a slap in the face by any means. And Mr. Linder and I both from the committee, we're debating to say, does this make sense to even move forward? Do we hold this off? But I guess if it's moving forward, I want it to be known that this was accidental, that it will be on the calendar earlier for next year, that there is an apology out there. This was not meant to be controversial in any way whatsoever. We support diversity. We just apologize that this slipped through the cracks, and we're trying to do what's right here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe our representative from the community is sitting in the back row and is waving his American flag in sincere appreciation for your comments.
Yes.
So with no other comments, clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Bates?
Bates, yes, better late than never.
Berman?
Berman, even though we're 2 months late, I think this is great, no matter what month we approve it. Yes.
Davis?
Davis, yes.
Ford?
Board, yes.
Gums?
Gums, yes.
Caius?
Caius belatedly.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was that?
Caius, yes.
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Linder?
Linder, yes.
Molina?
Molina, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman?
Strathman, yes.
Surges?
Surges, yes.
Pepe?
Steffi, yes.
Excellent. Well done. Well done. All righty. Transportation.
Public health.
Health.
My apologies. My apologies. I got excited. I'm very excited about public health too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two resolutions. I'd like to do them together this morning. And they are, I'll read them, I will motion and ask for a second.
Molina seconds.
Thank you. And the resolutions are authorizing agreement between King County Health Department and Aurora Public Library District for naloxone vending machine. And also authorizing an agreement between King County Health Department and Copley Memorial Hospital for an naloxone vending machine. Any discussion?
Is there any discussion?
What is Alaxone?
It is the proper name for Narcan, which is the remedy for opioid.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Lewis.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. There's so many great organizations under the health department that are getting this Narcan or naloxone out there, and it is going to save lives. But I have one comment that I'd like to pass back to the public health department. When the Narcan is getting distributed, we need to also distribute with it a list of resources, because obviously the Narcan is to save a person's life because dead people can't, change. But once that Narcan is administered, we have to have resources to get those people into health or into the help that they need. so it doesn't happen again. Because if it happens again, it's going to get worse. So I have not at any events where I've seen this getting distributed, seen any kind of pamphlet that says, here's where you should go for help or any resources whatsoever. And so I would like the Public Health Committee to address that.
Your question is well received, and I believe Ms. Strathman is taking a note on that, and you'll move that forward in discussion
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
next committee meeting.
It was a good suggestion. Thank you.
Tepe.
Tepe here. I want to note that, one, at the King County Fair, that the Health Department had a booth and was passing out Narcan. Also, it's available at their offices. You can virtually walk into the office in Aurora and pick up Narcan. I've promoted Narcan to my constituents, and at least 4 individuals have come forward and said they want one. I carry Narcan in my car just in case. And just to make it simple, people are concerned about administering it. There's a Good Samaritan law in Illinois that, protects the individual that's administering it. What you're doing is trying to, really help a person in a time of need. The Good Samaritan law keeps you safe too. So thank you.
Thank you. Last comment?
Is this Rush Copley Hospital?
Yes.
Yes.
Strathman, Rush Copley?
Yes.
Did it say Rush Copley instead of Copley?
I have it as Copley Memorial. I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
I think say
I
Rush
think the new
Copley.
name is Rush Copley, but
Thank you.
same building.
Everyone knows it in
Thank
Copley.
you.
But point well taken for these resolutions, using a formal name, the full name, I think is very appropriate. All right, let's take the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe.
Tepe, yes.
Passes.
Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Davis, your turn.
Good morning. Transportation has 8 items for you. I'll move them all and ask for a second.
second all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon.
All right, the first one is internal, authorizing pay grade changes, adjustments for equity within the pay grades for promotions within KDOT. The second is our Adopt a Highway program. We have 1 new applicant. Number 3 is purchasing salt for the coming winter, some untreated, some treated. We did get a better price this year, which was very nice. Number 4 is authorizing a grant agreement between the state of Illinois, DCEO, and County of Kane on Long Meadow. You heard a little bit about this from Kathy earlier. That's the $12.5 million grant. So good news there for the Chris Caius Memorial Fullway
I thought it was it. It was.
booth.
Not planning on passing soon.
And number 5 is approving the permit software license renewal for software that we use. It's $134,000 and change. Next is phase 2 engineering services with Trans Systems. That's regarding the work for the Bunker Road extension, which will be exciting for people that use the train station out there. And the last 2 are agreements with outside sources for on-call work in environmental services and land survey services.
All right. Motion and a second with no discussion. Yes.
I have a question about number 3, please. Are we using environmentally friendly ice control salt?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Waste of money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very prudent in our application of it as well.
Teensy bit.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That for sure. No, that indeed they are. And with climate change, we don't use as much ice as we did previous. So, okay, with that, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen, Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Combs,
Combs, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe.
Deputy, yes.
Passes.
Very good. All righty. So that concludes our consent agenda. Now we're on to the ordinance. Before we move forward with that, is this the last reading of our ordinance then to be moved on to the county board? So once this gets approved, we go on to the county board and it's the last reading
You don't require a first reading at the executive committee level, only at the board level.
at the board level. Okay, very good. So we're just passing this through. Is that accurate? All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 24-303?
Caius move.
Thank you, Mr. Caius. Is there a second?
Berman, second.
Oh, Ms. Allen will second. Is there any discussion on this item?
Madam Chair, Surges,
Yes, Mr. Surges.
I'm confused with State's Attorney Shepro's comment. Does this require an ordinance to move this forward, or is this, when he says the readings, I'm just not well versed with that.
SEO Frank, when you amend your order of operations under 247 or 8, when you're messing with essentially Robert's rules in any kind of way, you have to have 2 readings at the county board level. With this being executive, the question was, do we have to have a second reading at executive? The answer is no. It's only at the county board level.
So a reading is indifferent from the ordinance or the vote.
The reading is just to make sure that you're giving ample opportunity, that it comes up twice before the county board before there's ever a final vote on the issue.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Frank. It's on the very number 13, which is on page 858. It says here that nothing will prohibit the board from conducting a meeting by audio or video conference without physical presence of a quorum in the event of a disaster declaration related to public health concerns. My question is, what happens if it's a tornado or a weather-related incident? And it is declared an emergency, but I would like to convene the board for a meeting.
This is the existing language.
Yeah, so
It is the existing
yeah,
language.
so
correct?
when you guys look at this, I think this kind of came up the last time this came up. When you guys look at a change like this, if it has no underline to it or no strike through, no change has been made. So an underline is language added, a strike is language taken out. So to answer your question substantively though, if you give me like 1 minute, I'll read through it and give you an answer, but that's the language you currently have.
That's correct. That is correct. And if that were to be changed, then we would have to go back to square one and have it lay for another month before it gets approved.
No,
No, so you've already brought it up to the county board. They sent it back to the committee, which is now back here at executive. So if it comes up to the county board again, I think next week, that'll be a second reading.
But does that address the weather issue?
No, so I was going to answer your question. So I've reread 13. What 13 is saying is that in the event of a disaster, you don't have to have an in-person quorum, but it has to comply with certain disaster declarations. So you can't unilaterally allow everybody to have a meeting via Zoom without an in-person physical quorum. At least that's my reading of this, but it's also a 2-second reading. So the reason for that is obviously you can have people attend remotely under the remote attendance policy, but you still have to have a physical quorum in the room. By my reading of this, again, a quick one, I think what they're essentially saying here is if you have a disaster, you can call a meeting, but you have to have certain designated declaration of a disaster.
Okay, okay, all right. All right, perhaps we can, you can take a look at that before the board meeting in case there has to be any change. It's a just in case. It's a just in case if something happens.
what is the just in case?
If there's a tornado and rips up a bunch of property and we're unable to attend, or if this building gets hit by a tornado and we are unable to have it here.
I would tell you that that language does account for that.
Okay, that's, I was just asking.
It would just
So that's-
it would require a formal disaster declaration by someone outside of the board. So either state, federal, or local.
For our Office of Emergency Management, I'm sure.
State, federal, or local, yep.
Okay, very good. Okay, that was my question. Because we've had some interesting weather in Kane County recently, so I just want to make sure that we can convene if we need to. That's if we can convene. So with that, are there any other questions? Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, Madam Chair Sanchez. Last time we had talked about this, I had discussed a potential amendment and then I know it got sent back. So I still would like to make that amendment and it would be to section C agendas, item 1, and just adding a sentence saying that while the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agendas shall include all items approved by previous committees.
Which number are you on again? Because I believe we had that discussion, did we not? Well, and what number are we working with? Now?
C, under agendas, we did add an item 4. And that just has to do with committee agendas. So we did add that and you'll see that underlined item number 4 under section C agendas.
And what did you want to add?
And so this is what we had discussed, and I did send this out to the board at that time, that the language added to item 1, another sentence added will say that while the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agendas shall include all items approved by previous committees. So I would make that motion to.
Once again, it is required by us to have that, any kind of motion to an ordinance in writing so that we can review it.
Yeah.
So could you?
I did send that at the last meeting.
But we need it up now. So we can read it. Because this is significant change. Not the matter, but it's significant because it's an ordinance.
Would you want me to email it to everyone again?
I would like it to appear on the screen.
Not on Zoom right now, but I can go on Zoom and type that in if you'd like.
And that is just a requirement of what our practice is.
It's up to the board as to whether they want to.
Do you want to read it or are you okay with listening to it? I agree.
Got sent back here.
What should I hate to say that?
Well,
I put it in the chat of the Zoom for all to see. Obviously, it's not a conversation, it's just sharing of information, so it doesn't violate Open Meetings Act.
all right. So while the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agenda shall include all items approved by the previous committees.
And that goes where?
Be in addition to paragraph C1.
C1, correct.
I have it up. Was it, Jared, did you send that on July 9th? If you want to share the screen, I
Oh,
can.
it's right
bring it
there.
up. Okay,
They put it
never
up-
mind then.
Up there for us.
All righty, thank you.
Oh, of course it would not. So can you copy that? Are you able to copy that and paste it?
Yeah, see what you're saying. Yeah.
Or do we, Mr. Frank, do we need to add that if this gets approved? Do we need to add that language then to this ordinance, the draft of the ordinance?
Yeah.
And then discuss it fully at the full board?
Yeah, so it would be no difference than what we did with when 4 was changed, C4. So the language got added and it got put in on this agenda. So we'll just add the language to the one for the agenda coming up next week.
Okay.
I do, real quickly, while that's getting set up, I have two things that I would note that you might want to consider changing as a part of your amendment. If the board, it wants this to go through two kind of procedural things. The term previous committees implies something going back 20 years kind of idea. So if something was ever approved by a previous committee, theoretically it would have to come through. So you need to put some kind of a time limit on it. I would say previous, and I would say instead of saying previous, why don't you say standing by other standing committees within the last 30 days. So that covers the last cycle and doesn't go anything further back. It also specifically identifies which committees you're talking about. So however you'd like to define it, those would be my suggestions. Otherwise, I don't have any legal concerns as it relates to it.
This is Sanchez. Yeah, I would be open to that change of putting a time limit on it. I could see how it could be construed to maybe include something beyond the month cycle. I wouldn't want to put the word standing there because we do have non-standing committees that forward things and we wouldn't want to limit ourselves in that regard. But I do think putting a time on that would be good.
But doesn't everything have to go through this? Not necessarily because the ARPA is unique. But we have ad hoc committees, which are temporary committees, which have to get approved for the resolutions, except for the ARPA committee, I believe, to be able to go through for the full board for their approval.
So you guys can define this however you want. If you want to say standing and or ad hoc and or whatever you would like, it's perfectly fine. My issue is just when you say the word committees and the words previous, it gets
Correct.
very
I would agree
vague.
with you that. Good suggestion.
So then, yeah, I would alter this then to say that all items approved by, so would it be approved by committees within the last 30 days would be an appropriate, so getting rid of the word previous
The month previous to
to the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Mr. Davis.
I still have Jarrett's message and I had suggested to him that perhaps it would end with, shall include all items previously approved by a standing committee. And I think that adding ad hoc to that, and then if you want a time period, because occasionally we have committees that are formed with members of the public and things that
Correct.
would not be appropriate.
Correct.
But in a grammar police way, as previously approved as opposed to previous committees. And then if you, and just identify standing and or ad hoc.
Okay, so all items previously approved by all ad hoc and standing committees within the last 30 days. Yeah, that's clean.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
So yes, hold on a second, please. So the committees are receiving the committees are receiving their information from their departments that they work within. And there is the committee chair at that point has the capacity and due diligence to approve the recommendations that were brought forward by their department's suggestion to eliminate or to allow those conversations to be included within their discussion. So what this does, and I think that was a discussion I had previously, is that this commands the county board chair to agree to every resolution that was brought forward by the standing committee, but the standing committee chair has the authority and the ability, still standing, to eliminate or add resolutions that were not specifically brought forward by their staff, by the committee. So there's great authority with this. And there was incidents here that was recommended by a board member several times now, which was brought forward, but was spontaneously, but was after further research was against state law. So it's the hands, you're tying hands of any kind of referral that could go possibly with this. And I understand why in the intent, and I know it's with good intent. But
I don't see anything about removal though. You said it would allow somebody to remove something too, and I don't think it says that.
well, what it says here is that in my interpretation of this is that it seems that the county board chair going forward in the future, not just myself, but in the future, that the committee, standing committee, has complete authority of what to put forward on their committee. But the chair of the board then can only move forward all recommendations that are brought forward by that committee for the full board. So it's just a turnover. Is that, in my understanding, correct?
I think your reading is correct. The only thing I would tell you is it does not prevent you from adding something. It only prevents you from not adding something that a standing or an ad hoc committee put forward. But otherwise, I agree with your reading of that. Yes.
So I have this sitting here. This gives the last opportunity to not bring something forward if this chair, not myself, but if the chair has an understanding that what is being brought forward is not appropriate because it's going against federal or state law, even if it's just a proclamation. So yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What my concern is about this, and I understand it, but my concern is that it's creating an inequity of committee chairs. In that underneath the chair that you are sitting in right now, the committee chairs would have the authority to bring things forward, but you would be denied, you in that chair would be denied the same authority and responsibility. And
No.
now, but it okay, then I need somebody to explain to me why, if we are saying that the committee chairs can have passed something and it comes to the county chair, whoever is sitting in the seat, they have no authority or responsibility to remove that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so the way I would maybe try to simplify it to make it the easiest I can do is, as we've talked, the chairs, both in standing and the county level, have complete autonomy to have whatever they want on the agenda.
Right.
The board is, the members of the standing committees and the members of the larger board are without that authority. In this situation, though, if a standing committee were to vote something through, then the standing committee is essentially requiring it then to then be put on the executive. And if executive passes it, then it's required to be on the county board, which for example, if right now, if the executive or standing committee were to pass something, the chairperson could say no in the instance of it being illegal. That is a situation that has arisen and has happened. On the flip side, it could also be for political purposes. It could be for any reason. And so what this does is it ties the hands and says, no, the standing committee passed it or an ad hoc committee passed it. It must go up to executive and it must go up to the county board. And you guys can say executive or county board, so it doesn't automatically get then bypassed to executive. You could just say it has to go to executive, however you'd like to do it.
So I understand what you're saying. So my question based on that is, are we denying the chair of the county the same autonomy that we are allowing the chairs of the committee to exercise?
The answer is yes.
Okay, then I would not be able to support this. Thank you for your help.
Yes, sir.
Roth here, 2 clarifications. Because sometimes we don't get quorum. I would extend that 30 days to maybe 90 days, not 20 years like Mr. Frank brought up as the example. And then the other, your comment is that it's illegal. I don't think the chair should be making that legal decision. I think that's the power of the state's attorney to weigh in when it becomes up for discussion, whether it's legal or not legal. everything away from chair.
Please go ahead.
The only thing I would say on that is, when something comes up, even if it's illegal, you're not committing any kind of an illegal act by considering it.
Right.
It's the passage by the county board that makes, where you take and create a policy of law that's in violation of a state statute. And the remedy is you effectively did nothing. It becomes what they call void in absentia,
Right.
which means it never happened.
Right.
And so I don't have necessarily the concern that you guys could do something wrong. I do think Madam Chair's point of an appearance of we're doing something that's illegal, that's going on for months until finally you guys say, take it up for vote and it's overwhelmingly stricken down. That I think is more of the concern that I'm understanding, to be kind of fair to both sides on this. So to answer the kind of the one question as well as the other is, you are taking some authority away from the chair. You're not taking all authority
the
away from
county
the
chair.
chair. Yes, you are taking some authority from the county chair.
Yeah.
But it's not a situation where it goes so far as to take all authority away.
Right.
So kind of play that as you want.
All right, we've got a lot of hands up. Let me, Mr. Davis, Mr. Caius,
What does section 4 say? They're under that very same thing.
It has to do with committee agendas, not county board or executive.
Requested by any committee through discussion and or consensus, any items forwarded from a previous committee. I thought it applies to all committees. Committee meeting agendas, it doesn't say, oh, I see. But not including the board. Why wouldn't you just say committee meeting and full board meeting agendas shall be approved? And any items forwarded from previous committees.
The section itself just specifies executive and county board, so it was just clarifying a section for committees separately.
Thank you.
yes, Ms. Bates.
May I address the state's attorney?
Oh, yes.
What I understand this to mean is that the chairperson of the board retains the ability to add items, but there is no longer an ability to delete items that have come up from the standing committees, right? The chairperson can still add as at their will.
That is correct.
But the loss of some kind of independence there is they cannot delete something that has been approved, voted on and approved by a standing or ad hoc committee.
Yes.
Can't delete. Okay, thank you.
Committee is still, committee chair is still allowed very much to do that, to develop their own agenda.
They can't remove something once it's been approved by the committee.
But in the standing committees, the chairperson of the standing committees has the discretion to add or not add.
And you are eliminating that for the chair of the board.
Of the board, yes. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Surges, could I pigtail onto Mavis's there?
Yes, yes, Mr. Surges.
Mavis, if I'm understanding correctly, to me, did you just say that if it passes through a committee, that it can be added to the county board, regardless of if a chairman wants it or not? The chairman cannot delete it if it's been approved through committee?
Yes. Yes, the chairperson of the county board cannot delete from the agenda any item that has been voted on and passed by standing or ad hoc committees.
Got it.
It
Okay,
has
thank
to,
you.
they have to bubble up.
Okay, thanks.
I think Mr. Surgis's question was, does the committee chair have the ability to remove an item that has been approved by his committee or her before it goes to the board? And the answer, I think, is no.
That's correct. That would be a no. Once it's passed by the committee, it's automatically going forward.
Okay.
That was not my question, Ken, but thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
so what, and Mr. Sanchez, I know your hand's up, but just let me get this thought. So if we have a committee that passes a resolution and it going to the next committee level, which oftentimes happens, that committee chair, according to this, can eliminate that, does not have to accept it. because the committee chair is allowed to establish their own agenda. It is only the case when it gets to the executive committee and to the full board, for all resolutions that are passed through cannot be eliminated or amended, changed by the chair of the county board. But you still have that autonomy to be able to do this as a chair of a committee. Mr. Sanchez, this is very nuanced.
I want to qualify something. So we've been operating under, I've been giving you direction under what's currently the case. C4, the change you guys made to C4 took away a lot of the standing committee's authority, because what it says is once departments and elected offices have submitted items requested by the committee through the discussion or consensus, or items forwarded by another committee, those have to go on to the agenda for the standing committee. So the standing committee chair will have somewhat of the same handcuffs. Those things have to go on. But that also allows them to add other stuff. So C4 plus the amendment here essentially will do kind of the same thing. It'll just be done in different ways.
All right, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that is correct. That is my understanding of the intent of these amendments together. It's not allowing committee chairs to have some power that the board chair doesn't have. I will, for context, just remind us all that we do operate in a decentralized manner, that the board is the decision maker. It's not the chairman. We don't have an executive, we make these decisions together. We utilize a committee structure. And so what the background intent, and just taking all of us personalities out of this and just looking at the positions and how this government functions, it's empowering committees, and it's just making sure that we're all having the conversations that we want to have. This is something that has come up before. So the intent with this amendment is to make sure that essentially anything approved by the executive committee, it's not taking the power or changing the duties of the executive committee, but the executive committee does have to take up anything that was forwarded to it. So if something gets forwarded from Energy Environmental, it goes to finance. Dale's got to put it onto finance, right? Finance votes it down. That's it. It doesn't go any further. It's not requiring it that it has to go all the way to county board. It still has to go through the process, but it just means if one group said yes to it, it has to be at least discussed by the next group. Ultimately, everything comes to executive committee. That's how we determine the county board agenda. And then any additions that the chairman may have, that's why this language specifies still allowing that ability for the county chair to add things to either executive or county board. That still exists. But if it passes executive, then it has to be on the county board agenda. If it passes a previous committee, it has to be on executive, and so on. So that's all it's doing. It's just really kind of, this has sort of been an implied process that we've had, but sometimes we've deviated from that in the 7 years that I've been here. So really, this is just empowering our whole committee process. It's empowering committee chairmen, the chairman of the board, making sure we're all working together well. That's all that this is doing.
Davis.
Yes.
It seems to me that the intent of this is to safeguard against the elimination of something that has been, discussed and voted on at a standing or ad hoc committee. And in the format we have here with standing committees and a board who are actually in charge of, the business of the county, I think that's a, well-intended, and it doesn't give a standing committee or an ad hoc committee chairman any greater authority, and certainly not one to eliminate things or be some kind of a gatekeeper. It's simply saying that nor shall the county board chair position have that ability either. So I think you're on pretty safe ground here. This is the style of government we operate with. And if it is flawed in some way that hasn't been pointed out to us throughout the process by people like Mr. Frank, it will eventually. By the time it gets to executive, if there's a legal reason why, no, you can't do that, it'll come out. But it shouldn't ever be that it's, held back by somebody because of any other kind of agenda that might be applied. So.
It was mentioned, not just legal, but at times a political agenda. And I think we have to be knowledgeable of that. That there may be that opportunity as well, that somebody, a board member who may be on committee chair, has an agenda that is political, and I'm just using political in.
Sure. No, I mean, we live in a
generic
political
terms.
arena, but they would still have to
Generic
have the vote of a committee. They couldn't do it on their own. They would have to have discussion. They would have to have a vote. They would have to have move forward with the consensus of a standing or ad hoc committee. Nobody gets to do it alone.
And
Yes, Mr. Caius.
just one maybe long sentence, but having had the experience of being under another administration, I have seen the frustration occur. So we're talking about not just one, and like, we're not saying this political person or that, political. As we go forward, other administrations might tend to abuse it. So this would eliminate that.
All right, we've got a conference that is going on right now between our chief of civil. All right, are you ready for the final word on this? Or maybe,
Madam Chair Gums.
Ms. Gums,
Go ahead.
please,
I'll
Ms.
take the
Gums,
final
please
word.
go ahead.
Thank you. I do really apologize. My internet is going in and out. I think there's solar flares or something going on. I have been able to listen to this conversation, but before we actually vote, can you reread the amendment that I will be voting on? Because I was trying to log in during that period.
We'll have our clerk do that.
Thank you very much.
Right after we hear from SAO, Frank.
So I will take the last word because I am
Okay,
going to
hold
make
on a second. Let her, it needs to be read out loud one more time.
No. I'm going to make a change.
Oh.
That's why I'm taking the last word.
Sorry, you want, we're going to amend this right now, and you're going to read it out loud with the,
I'm going to suggest that the motion have a change to it
okay, I
based on
understand.
the
but if-
conversation.
If we could just hold back, don't change your thought. Let's read the, per request, the original amendment. So the Ms. Gums has got context. Please read it. Just we'd be done reading it right now. Just please read it.
To clarify, am I reading what's on the screen or am I reading what has been?
What it was changed to.
Okay, so then what I have is while the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agenda shall include all items previously approved by standing and or ad hoc committees within 30 days. I don't know if that is correct.
Okay.
I am asking for the words with jurisdiction to be added. The reason for this is this prevents a situation that was discussed where finance says no, energy environment say yes. And because energy environment said yes, now it's automatically on to executive. So when you say with jurisdiction, you're requiring all standing committees with jurisdiction to approve it before it goes to executive. So if you would add with jurisdiction, can you read the last part to me? I'll tell you where to put it in.
All items previously approved by standing and or ad hoc committees within
Right there, after the word committees,
with
standing and or ad hoc committees with jurisdiction.
within 30 days. Good.
Madam Chair Gums.
Yes, Ms. Gums. Yes, Ms. Gums.
Thank you very much. Just for, to dumb it down for me, John, what you're saying is that if KDOT wants to bring something that's related to public health, then it wouldn't apply because they don't hold jurisdiction
Correct.
for the,
You could,
okay, thank you.
well,
I just
yes.
wanted to say it like, like I'm a 2-year-old there. Thank you.
No, that's correct, but it also prevents a situation of forum shopping for other things too.
And that was my point. Thank
All right, are we good? Everybody has a full understanding of what is being proposed, and this, with this amendment change, we'll have to vote separately on this amendment. Is that correct? Or can we just forward this to the county board?
No, this needs to be voted by this committee as an amendment.
Okay,
We
very
don't
good.
currently have the most recent version with the jurisdiction added.
Correct.
by anybody, I don't think.
That has been typed.
So then my motion to amend would include that language change, and I believe the seconder also agrees.
We do not have a second on the amendment.
Do we have a second?
Have us a second.
Thank you. All right, but could you read before we take the vote? Let's read it one more time as amended.
Okay. The whole thing, 100%?
Just the,
Okay, sorry. So while the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agenda shall include all items previously approved by standing and or ad hoc committees with jurisdiction within 30 days.
within, could we just add additional language within 30 days of the committee meeting, of the meeting of that committee?
That's kind of implied.
Is it
Mhm.
just 30 days?
On the last
Within-
30 days before the agenda.
Yeah,
Being
that's fine.
So what was it, posting of the agenda? Because there may not be 30 days, it may be 45 days before the ad hoc committee and then it gets posted on.
Yeah, I mean, that does bring up the question that Mr. Roth pointed out. I think the way you would write the language would be within the last,
60 days.
well, or you could do the last, the
Cycle.
most previous
How about just the meeting?
standing committee. I mean, so
Approval, wouldn't it be approval? The approval of the last standing committee? Because it,
yes, that's what I would say. Yes.
Approval of the last standing committee? Okay.
Or ad hoc. We don't want to limit it.
committee,
Oh, the last meeting
Meetings.
of that committee.
Yeah. Of the action of said
the
committee.
approved, yeah.
Yeah.
So that there's no
Committees
quorum.
with
So what is the language of the
jurisdiction.
last meeting of that committee?
So my concern with this is,
And
let's
with
say
your-
executive gets pushed, then theoretically, anything that was approved 45 days ago, it gets booted.
Correct.
Look,
It's the,
We should not put a date, a time, how many days. 'Cause that does limit it.
yeah, but the problem is then you get the flip side, which is once it's approved,
You don't want no limit either. so-
there's no limit. Yeah.
What
But how
about
about
within the
just
last
that
time the committee met? The
Correct.
approved agenda of the last time the committee met. So if it met 45 days ago, it was approved 45 days ago, but it's now coming per committee flow today.
Yeah, that's fine. would be fine.
Exactly. I would agree with that. So the
Mhm.
proper language would be the last time of the meeting of that committee or the approved agenda from that committee or the approved resolutions from the last meeting of that committee. Ms. Gums, you have language?
I don't have language, I'm just confused.
Oh,
I
About the
know, I'm
date.
joining the group. Yeah, because maybe I'm missing it here, but if we're gonna add that particular language, as Ms. Molina said, I don't know how that addresses the time period after it's been completed. So you've completed a task and now you have 30 days or 45 days or whatever we decide. I'm not sure how that addresses the issue there. It can't be
that's-
open-ended, but it can't be too short.
No, that, we're just trying to get rid of the date, how many actual days.
would think the 90 days would solve that problem.
Wouldn't, I'm sorry, this is Caius, wouldn't, with jurisdiction cover that? If it's,
We've got language.
No,
Here,
you need
state's attorney's coming up.
doesn't have to be with jurisdiction.
Just take the timing language off of it. We'll play around with it. I really don't have a true concern of the 20-year thing. It was just it's something to think about, but it's almost impossible for it to really come up without us being able to handle it at the time. So if you take off the 30 days, take it all together, then we can, workshop it and we'll have something for you if we need it before the county board.
Play it safe and just say 90 days.
No, we're not, no days.
I think you can just
Madam
take
Chair,
the-
point
you
of
can take the
order.
30 days off
Hold
together. and
hold
it's-
on a
it's
second,
fine.
please.
order's
We have a
been
point of order.
There's been a
order
point
has
of
been
order.
raised. Yes.
Thank you.
I-
Point of order, Gums. I just, there might be a tie here, so let's be careful on how we weigh in on that because some people think that there should be a time and some people don't. So that's my point of order, Madam Chair.
So my suggestion is to the move-ins in the second, if that's what they want to take it off. I think legally speaking, you're fine taking it off.
I
All
would,
right,
agree-
we
I
have-
would agree to that as the one that made the motion to amend and Mr. Davist also as the seconder.
Okay, very good.
Delete
Yeah.
the 30-day part.
And then knowing that if the civil division comes back between now and county board and says, oh, there's something additional you should change on that, then we will.
Okay, Excellent, excellent.
One more quick question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Gums.
I apologize, but I can't support it if there's no end date on it because I just feel like the 20-year thing is ludicrous, of course, but not impossible, right? So if it's not impossible, it can be done.
I don't know who's going to go back and look for any resolutions that were approved 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Right, but my point is,
besides
Gums,
Melina.
Gums, I think my point is that
Hold on
I
a
think my
second,
point
please. We've
is-
got, Ms. Gums, we've got multiple conversations here. Could everybody make sure that they raise their hand to be recognized and do not interrupt a speaker who has been recognized? Thank you. Ms. Gums.
Thank you. I just, to the point, I'm worried that if something gets approved, that it doesn't ever get added to an executive or a county board agenda. I mean, is that not what we're talking about here? Again, I apologize. I might be confused, but that can happen if we push it forward from finance to executive, but the chair of executive chooses never to put it on there. I'm not comfortable with that.
That, yes. Could you please clarify that? Because
Ms. Gums, the 30 days is doing kind of the thing that you're concerned about. By having a 30-day limit, if executive were to get postponed, it would push out of the 30-day window and then something could get held off by the chair. So by taking the 30-day window out, it's doing the thing that you're hoping to do, which is to make sure that anything that gets approved by any standing or ad hoc committee in the previous cycle will get forwarded to executive to be voted upon by the executive committee.
But not if there's not an end date on that.
No, the end date is doing
I
the
mean-
thing to limit it. The 30 days that you're talking about is a limitation on that. By taking it away, you're giving it more authority to force the hand of the chairperson.
Well,
Please.
Ms. Gums?
I'll yield to
Oh.
Mr. Shepro if he has a point.
Mr. Shepherd does have a point.
I think I'm not articulating
Clarification.
my concern. Sorry.
Right. With deference to my distinguished colleague, I think if somebody tried to bring up something that a committee acted on 20 years ago, the that this is not a continuing body. So what somebody did 20 years ago is no longer in effect if it weren't acted upon during the life of that board. So I think, that I don't know that that's really a problem. And I think that would suggest that the deletion of the time limit would actually accomplish what I think the movements are attempting to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to this too is, let's say there has been something in the past that hasn't been moved on that could get more forwarded on. I mean, for purposes of the board, you all can handle that. Like you can then take a vote on it. So it's whatever you all decide, it's empowering yourselves by taking the limitation away. And for simplicity's sake and, moving this thing forward, that's the other reason I'm okay with taking the 30 days off, is there's no repercussions that are bad for the board. You just might have to take an extra vote.
I would agree with you on that. All right, we've had ample discussion on this, and I hope, Mr. Sanchez, I would like to commend you for being very thoughtful with this, and I do hope that this is your last one on this.
Well,
And
now that you ask.
Are you planning on going to law school, sir?
My mom always said I should have been a
Indeed.
lawyer. Well, didn't
Yes,
find my
yes.
calling.
Bias, can we have a reread of?
Absolutely. Could you read it one more time for us?
While the chairperson reserves the right to place items on the executive committee and county board agenda, the executive committee and county board agendas shall include all items previously approved by standing and/or ad hoc committees with jurisdiction.
Period. Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Ready to take the vote? Clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Bates?
Bates, yes.
Herman, yes.
Davis?
Davis, yes.
Ford?
Ford, yes.
Gums?
Gums, yes.
Caius?
Guys, yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Linder?
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
No.
Surges,
Confused, but yes.
Pepe.
Pepe, no.
Passes with 2 noes.
This is going to be moved on now to the full board. Yes, yes, sir.
No, this was just the amendment.
That was
you
the amendment.
passed.
Amendment.
I have one request this is purely for OMA purposes to clarify. The packet that was a part of the packet is the old version. You guys have changed the title of the county board, so we need to change it here for purposes of making sure it's a second reading when it goes back up. So I would ask for a motion and a second to amend the title of the ordinance to amending section 247 conduct of meetings and the King County Code to address rules of order.
So moved.
Ford seconds.
Who motioned that? I'm sorry.
Sanchez, sorry.
You could voice vote that.
Okay, could you read it one more time for me? Because I'm making notes.
Yes, ma'am. Amending section 247 in parentheses conduct of meetings, ampersand, the King County Code to address rules of order.
All right, thank you. Ready to take the vote? Clerk, please call the roll.
You can take a voice vote.
Just voice vote as the title. All in favor, aye?
Madam Chair, I would request a roll call vote.
All right, roll call vote. Thank you.
Allen, Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, no.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Surges, no.
Pepe.
Pepe, yes.
Passes with 2 noes.
All right, very
Thank you.
good. That completes that.
No,
Oh,
no.
Now we need to. get
Oh,
it to
no,
vote.
On the
no,
main.
we need to take a
Now
vote
you-
on the ordinance as
The
amended.
ordinance as amended by its title and otherwise.
Title and content.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready? Clerk, please call the roll. And this is, everybody knows we're voting on, ladies, gentlemen, we're
The main motion.
on the main motion of the ordinance as amended title as well as content. Ready? Here we go. Take the roll.
Allen, Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, no.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon.
Yeah.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, no.
Surges,
Surges, no.
Pepe.
Pepe, no.
Passes with 4 noes.
Onward it goes to the county board. All right, so now, committee reports. I think I've spoken enough. Legislative update, Ms. Gums. Oh, I'm
got-
so sorry. If I may stop you, I passed over.
We skipped
the-
executive
the closed
session.
Session
My
minutes.
goodness.
Before we go into exec, I don't really have anything exciting in case I lose you here. I'm doing my
Okay.
best to stay connected.
All right, so legislative committee has no updates. So,
Not unless any of the other chairs have one.
all right.
Madam-
well,
Madam
just do
Chair?
Committee now. Yes.
May, I move that we go into executive session for review of closed minutes.
Is there a
Caius, second.
Okay, very good. Clerk, please call the roll to go into executive session for closed minutes.
Allen, Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
It's always exciting. to see.
Ford, Gums,
Yes.
Ms. Gums?
Yes.
Was that a yes to go
Yes.
into closed session? Yes?
It is, yes. Sorry about that.
Pius?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yeah.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Linder?
Linder, yes.
Molina?
Molina, yes.
Sanchez? Strathman? Yes.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Tepe?
Yes.
All right, we're going into closed session.
All right, everybody online that's joining us, please accept the invite to go into the closed session. I will let you know when we're together.
Have a different way of looking.
And your timing is.
Good afternoon.
Here in the reminder, if you're in the room, I need you to join as well, please.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's a lot.
Aren't you glad you made an effort?
She got to see us.
Or gave up on.
The sanity.
So, interesting. Anything else? Yes.
All right, you are in open session.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done. We're back in open session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Miss Allen, yes, you're here. Thank you.
Bates, Berman,
Davis here.
Ford, Thumbs,
Oh, I know where you-
Lewis, Linder,
Linda present.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman present.
Surges,
Surge is present.
Pepe,
Be here.
Huron.
Here. All right,
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the release of Co's minutes as per attachment A.
okay, so we have a motion to approve the release of closed session minutes and Exhibit A recommended by the state's attorney. We have a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen, Bates,
Aye.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. Harris is away, sorry. Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes, yes.
Linder,
Abstain.
abstain. Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez. He's gone. Strathman, Surges,
Abstain.
Tepe,
Caius is in the room. Mr. Caius,
Caius.
Yes.
release
you.
of closed session minutes. All right, very good. That passes, motion passes. Are there any other, we're going back to agenda, last item, any other committee updates?
Madam Chair, Surges.
Mr. Surges, Ms. Bates had her hand up first.
Uh, This coming Saturday, in a few days, the Climate Action Implementation Plan will have our kickoff meeting for our implementation team. So if you're interested, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Mr. Shepro, can you please take your conversation away from the microphones? Thank you. Okay, Climate Action Plan, Mr. Shepro, I'm sorry, Mr. Surges.
Yes, ma'am. I have two items. The first one is that and we can discuss this just a bit offline, but we do have the executive director of Human Services is out for a brief period. We have a meeting coming up. I may be traveling that day. I'm wondering what the executive committee's response would be if we canceled that meeting and simply held it over till the following month. I'm not sure what the protocol is on that. If the chair and the lead person and the executive director are not available. So, and we can discuss that offline. The second thing for us on the north end, Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Caius and I are all, and Mr. Iqbal are all vibrantly aware that I believe tomorrow afternoon is a live session for the I-90 over Randall Road. The next iteration that KDOT is presenting, and I believe that's in Elgin at the library. I have put that out on my Facebook and blasted it, boosted it, put it out through my email list and text message contacts. And I'm encouraging everybody that's in the area that has a concern up there, get it out to your constituents so we can make people aware of what we're doing and how we're trying to do that, especially with Long Meadow coming on, online in the next, couple of months here. So thank you.
Thank you for that update. Yes, Mr. Caius?
I might add to that. I took these notes I got these from our public information officer. This is the Randall over 90.
Yep.
Project. Begins this evening with a live online presentation at 5 p.m. and you can go to randallover90.com and sign up for that to get on that webinar. And then tomorrow evening, it's at the center of Elgin.
Oh, thank you,
CENTR.
Chris. Thank you.
Same time frame, 5 to 7, that's live.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anybody else? I do have an update. It's an invitation. That the ribbon cutting for Long Meadow Parkway will take place on August 29th
Yeah, bro.
at 1 p.m. I hope you'll be able to attend. It'll be a great opportunity to celebrate, I believe, 30 years worth of hard labor and thoughtful consideration made by the boards.
The time again?
1 p.m.
Does that mean it opens then?
No, this
Oh.
is a ribbon cutting.
Oh, sorry.
Cutting with a parade of cars and speeches and treats.
Sorry, got excited there.
And note the treats.
car with a bridge.
So,
Not me.
okay, with that, Mr. Kenyon.
Finally, I'd like to ask that we adjourn, join this day. Beautiful day.
It's a
beautiful day.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right, very good.
Thank you all.
First not to